What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 10C Chapter 261. Play. After the Kurosaki sisters and Ichigo finished playing, they came down. Ichigo smiled and said, "You two are really too hard on yourself." He nodded at the heads of the two of them. The Kurosaki sisters were very dissatisfied when they heard Ichigo's words, but because they were still in the shadow of the roller coaster, they gave Ichigo a hard look and was still sitting on the bench. Ichigo saw that the two of them were not going to slow down soon, so he went to the ice cream shop to buy 3 ice creams. After Ichigo left, the Kurosaki sisters glanced at each other helplessly and then continued to sit up there. When Ichigo came to the store, he saw that there were a lot of people lining up. Ichigo couldn't cut the line, right? So I had to wait in line. And Ichigo bought 3 of them after waiting in line for a few minutes and walked towards the Kurosaki sisters. Because the people here are of good quality, there will be no jumping in the queue, so the queue is quickly exhausted. At 600, Ichigo returned to the Kurosaki sisters and said, "Okay, let's eat ice cream and relax." He handed the ice cream to the two of them. And the two of them became a little interested after seeing the ice cream, and ate the ice cream in their hands. Kurosaki shyly said, "I won't be crazy with you in the future, Yuzu," and looked at Kurosaki Yuzu. And Kurosaki shyly was very dissatisfied when he heard Kurosaki Shiarly's words. "Shiarly, I didn't let you accompany me, I asked my brother to accompany me," and looked at her not to be outdone. After talking, the two of them started to stare at each other. Ichigo looked at the two of them helplessly when he saw this scene and said, "Okay, don't make trouble, we'll continue to play and relax after eating the ice cream, project." After hearing that, they both nodded. Because the two of them didn't want to take the two of them back when they were already angry, although it's unlikely that Ichigo would be angry with the two of them. Advertisement, CGBE. Soon they ran out of ice cream, and Ichigo asked them both, "Which one are we going to play now?" Then they both started to answer. Some said they were going to play bumper cars, and some said they were going to haunted houses. Anyway, they seem to have said all the projects. And there are quite a lot of playground projects, such as roller coaster, rapids, Ferris wheel, pirate ship, cave speeder, spring bed, jumping machine, 360-degree swivel chair, merry-go-round, bumper car, haunted house, big pendulum, etc. project. And the Kurosaki sisters' current idea is to play all the projects once and still play with Ichigo. And Ichigo was helpless listening to the next, so he said out loud, "Okay, let's go to the haunted house first." Then he took their hands and walked to where. The Kurosaki sisters were delighted to see Ichigo take their hands, so the two of them didn't object at all and went somewhere with Ichigo. And after coming to the ticket office, he gave him the ticket and asked him to stamp it, and then he went in with the Kurosaki sisters. After entering, the two of them kept holding Ichigo's arm, and kept huddling towards Ichigo's side. Ichigo was speechless seeing how scared they were. After all, it's you who are coming, and you are the ones who are scared. While Ichigo and the Kurosaki sisters walked down the road, the Kurosaki sisters kept screaming and said that she would never enter the haunted house again. Hearing the two of them, Ichigo had to comfort them all the time, otherwise what else could I do? After the two of them recovered, Ichigo said to the Kurosaki sisters, "Okay, let's not play those exciting games now, let's play some relaxing games." He also stroked the Kurosaki sisters' hair. "Stand up." Sister Kurosaki nodded at Ichigo after hearing this, and then kept holding Ichigo's arm and walked towards the next project. Advertisement. After taking the two of them to play all the projects, of course, some of them were relaxed projects. Ichigo took the two of them to the restaurant next to the playground to rest. Because they didn't eat dinner, although they ate snacks during the play, they didn't care about being full. Of course Ichigo's exception. So Ichigo took the two of them to the restaurant to prepare them for something to eat. After taking them to this restaurant, they both looked around curiously, because everything here seemed very novel to them, so they kept looking around. After coming to the counter, Ichigo took a card to the waiter and said, "It's the same place." Then he looked at the Kurosaki sisters and said, "It should be fine to eat at this restaurant." Yuzu shyly. The Kurosaki sisters on the side nodded to Ichigo and said, "Yes." Hearing this, Ichigo was relieved. After the waiter swiped the card, he knew what Ichigo just said, and arranged for the waiter to lead Ichigo to the fixed table. Because this store is a membership system, as long as you have a membership card, you can get good service. Soon the waiter took the two of them to a table with a view of the playground by the window and said, "Please take a seat," and then pulled out the chair, "Let us sit," and then took out the menu for us. Ichigo gave the two of them the menu and said, "You two order it." The Kurosaki sisters and the others got the menu and opened it. When they saw the right dish, they didn't know what to order, so they handed the menu to Ichigo, and Kurosaki shyly said, "Ichigo bro, let's order it." Ichigo nodded when he heard it, returned the menu to the waiter and said, "Just take 3 servings as they were originally." The waiter nodded after hearing this and went down. Chapter 262. Promise. After the waiter went down, Kurosaki Yuzu looked at Ichigo and said, "Brother, I've been here before." Hearing Kurosaki Yuzu's words, Kurosaki shyly also looked at Ichigo curiously. And Ichigo nodded and said, "Of course, I've been here with Yoruichi," and smiled at them both. When the Kurosaki sisters and the others heard Ichigo's words, it was revealed that it was like this, and then they started talking about today's interesting things, and laughed from time to time. Ichigo is also very happy to see the two of them looking very happy, because today I came to play with the two of them. If they are not happy, there is no point in taking them out in the future. Soon at Ichigo and Kurosaki sisters talking and laughing, the waiter brought the meal. After finishing everything, he said to Ichigo and Kurosaki sisters, please take it slow, and went down. And Ichigo said to the Kurosaki sisters, okay, let's eat. The food here is very good, and then started to eat. When the Kurosaki sisters saw Ichigo eating, the two of them started eating too. During the meal, Kurosaki shyly asked, Ichigo-san, what do you want to do in the future? Hearing Kurosaki shyly's question, Kurosaki Yuzu also looked at Ichigo curiously. Because the two sisters were really curious about what Ichigo would do in the future, so they asked, Ichigo. After hearing Kurosaki shyly's question, Ichigo said without thinking, I hope to travel around the world in the future, and said in his heart, travel around the world. Hearing Ichigo's answer, the Kurosaki sisters were all surprised, but then happily said to Ichigo, I'm so envious. We want to go too, and then acted like a spoiled child at Ichigo. But Ichigo didn't directly agree to the two of them. Instead, he said to them, it depends on you at that time. If you two get into a good university, then I will definitely take you there. They both scratched their noses. When the Kurosaki sisters heard Ichigo's words, they looked at Ichigo with firm eyes and said, we will definitely succeed, and cheered each other up. When Ichigo saw the two of them, he said, okay, you are still far from that time. Now let's get the moment done. Advertisement. The Kurosaki sisters heard Ichigo's words and understood that it was still years away from entering university. So they both lost their fighting spirit, but Ichigo immediately said, it's not good to get into a good university without good grades, so you have to work hard from now on, you know? He nodded to the Kurosaki sisters on the forehead. The Kurosaki sisters nodded helplessly after hearing Ichigo's words and being nodded by Ichigo. Of course Kurosaki shyly is helpless, and Kurosaki Yuzu is full of energy. Because Kurosaki shyly's grades are only in the middle and upper stages, so it's not very good. And Kurosaki Yuzu's grades are always the first in her grade, so she doesn't need to worry at all. But her personality is similar to Inoue or Hime, so I took Ichigo's words to heart and prepared to work hard. Seeing Kurosaki shyly's helpless look, Ichigo said to her, okay, don't be discouraged, shyly, I'll review it for you from tomorrow. Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly was immediately happy, because Ichigo was going to review for her, so he would be alone with Ichigo, so of course Kurosaki shyly was happy. And Kurosaki Yuzu next to him was a little dissatisfied, but she immediately said to Ichigo, brother, I also want you to help me review. Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly said directly to her, Yuzu, you don't need it anymore, your grades are so good that you don't need it at all. Kurosaki Yuzu immediately retorted, even if my grades are good, I need to strengthen it a bit, don't I? 99. After saying that, they both started to stare, ask for flowers. When Ichigo heard it, he said to the two of them, okay, let's review together. After hearing what Ichigo said, the two of them agreed. Advertisement. Then Ichigo continued, okay, let's continue to eat now, stop talking, and started eating. And the Kurosaki sisters started eating again. Soon Ichigo and the Kurosaki sisters ate all the food and Ichigo said to them, what do you want to play now? Kurosaki Yuzu said first, I'm going to play the Ferris wheel, okay? Then he looked at Ichigo with anticipation. Point 0. Even Kurosaki shyly looked at Ichigo expectantly. And of course Ichigo promised them, of course, it's up to the two of you today. The Kurosaki sisters were very happy to hear this. Of course, the most excited are the Kurosaki sisters and the others. After all, I came here with their two favorite Ichigo. After coming under the Ferris wheel, Kurosaki sisters looked up at the Ferris wheel and said in amazement, it's really high, this should be very exciting. 35 said and looked at Ichigo expectantly. After Ichigo and the others sat inside, they were excited to see the night view outside. Then Ichigo pulled the two of them towards the Ferris wheel. After arriving at the high place, Ichigo kissed Ichigo's cheek without noticing, and then blushed and said, this is a gift of thanks. Then they saw this night scene divination. Seeing the blushing look of the two of them, Ichigo helplessly shook his head and smiled and said, okay, I can't do this again in the future. Then he nodded to the heads of the two of them. Ichigo shook his head helplessly when he saw the appearance of the two of them, then handed the ticket to the ticket inspector and asked her to pull the Kurosaki sisters and the two of them to sit in a room after the ticket was checked. The Kurosaki sisters also nodded obediently. Chapter 263, Change of Mindset. After they watched the night view and waited for the Ferris wheel to come down, the Kurosaki sisters said happily, brother Ichigo, brother, you will also bring us here in the future. After that, she took Ichigo and walked forward. And Ichigo said to the two of them, of course, I will bring you all in the future. Then he put his hand on their heads and stroked them. The Kurosaki sisters also leaked expressions of enjoyment. Then they went back home and saw everyone in the yard. 603, Ichigo asked, why are you all staying here? He looked at Yoruichi. Yoruichi replied, it's nothing, I just think the yard is more comfortable, and walked towards Ichigo. When Kurosaki sisters saw Yoruichi coming, they let go of Ichigo's hand and went directly to Kurosaki Masaki's side and acted like a spoiled child. When Kurosaki Masaki saw the Kurosaki sisters coming to the side, he teased the two of them and said, how is it, it's been a day. After hearing Kurosaki Masaki's words, they started talking about today's events. Of course, Kurosaki Ishin, Uno Hanaritsu, and Yoruichi all listened to what the Kurosaki sisters and the others said. Kurosaki Masaki smiled at Ichigo after hearing what the Kurosaki sisters had to say. Ichigo saw this smile too, and nodded to her, and it was a little late now, so the group returned to the house. When they got inside, Ichigo said to them, "I'm going to take a shower first." After that, Ichigo walked towards his room. After hearing Ichigo's words, everyone didn't say anything, but did their own thing. Advertisement Yoruichi, looking at the direction Ichigo was walking, didn't know what to think, and then continued to chat with Uno Hana. Ichigo came to the bathtub and washed his body, then got into the bathtub and started to take a bath. Ichigo looked at the ceiling and wondered what he was thinking. Soon Ichigo closed his eyes and meditated. Next, Yoruichi and the others fought for a while, and then Yoruichi said, "I'll go back to my room first, you guys can play." They didn't stop Yoruichi from going up because they also thought about why Yoruichi went up. And when Yoruichi came up, Ichigo also put on pajamas and lay down on the bed to rest. Because he felt that he was a little stupid, and he was a little timid because he was afraid that he didn't know whether the heaven existed or not, which made Ichigo very dissatisfied. His heart changed when he decided to stop worrying about what he had and just do what he wanted to do. "I have become a fearless heart. Even the temperament of my body has changed. This is probably because I have liberated myself by letting go of the things in my heart." So his attributes have also changed a lot. Name: Kurosaki Ichigo, Hōgyoku. S**X. Male age: 15. Spouse: Shihouin Yoruichi, soul. Advertisement potential: Unlimited Ryotsu. Spirit King. Level 27 and 1,868,721 1 millions can be broken through. Zanpakuto. The perfect Zanjetsu, final solution. Physique: Tianquan battle physique. Spirit level, can break through. Physical: mortal, spiritual, king, emperor, immortal, god, holy, Tao. Keto: King Shunpo, king class white hits, king class. With the current Ichigo, you can defeat 100 Ichigos who have not improved their physique. Moonless: king class crescent moon sky chong, king level. Hollow: king backpack. Character fragments X1868721, Intermediate Express X40000, Advanced Express X19000, Super Express X18000, Breakthrough Card X600. Combat Experience: King Class Slash, King Class 1.4 Crack Air Flash, King Class. Because of the improvement of his physique, Ryotsu also became stronger. Although the improvement is not large, the quality of Ryotsu has been purified dozens of times. Chapter 264. Ascension. After Ichigo finished improving his physique, he lay quietly on the bed and looked at the scenery outside from time to time. Because now he knows that Aizen Sosuke is coming, he wonders if the outside scenery can be preserved like the original. Because of his current strength, the butterfly effect appeared, which made Ichigo very helpless, but of course he was not at all afraid and waited. It's just a pity that the scene here after it was destroyed. Yoruichi also came in while Ichigo was thinking about something, and seeing Ichigo lying on the bed, she looked at him happily and walked towards him. But when he came to his side, Yoruichi found that Ichigo was different from before, which made Yoruichi very puzzled. So after Yoruichi checked Ichigo's attributes with the system, and saw that Ichigo's physique had improved, he knew why Ichigo 26 had changed so much. So Yoruichi jumped on Ichigo right away. Ichigo knew she was coming when Yoruichi came next to her, so he kept an eye on her. Unexpectedly, Yoruichi jumped towards him, so he immediately caught her with his hands and scratched her nose and said, You're so naughty," and took Yoruichi into his arms. Yoruichi stuck out his tongue at Ichigo after hearing Ichigo's words, and then ignored it and buried his head directly into Ichigo's chest. Ichigo was also very helpless to see Yoruichi like this, but he didn't reject her either. Then he said to Ichigo and Yoruichi, "Ichigo, how has your strength improved?" He looked at Ichigo with dissatisfaction. Hearing this, Ichigo knew why Yoruichi did that just now. Then Ichigo explained to Yoruichi. This is because of the breakthrough in the state of mind, so the physical constitution changes, and the strength also becomes stronger. Hearing this, Yoruichi also eased up a bit. But Yoruichi continued, "Then it's okay for me to improve my physique." Ichigo was amused when he heard that, but nodded anyway. Yoruichi immediately became happy when he saw Ichigo nodding, and then clicked on the improvement of physique on the interface. Advertisement. Then Yoruichi's body began to change. What I want to say here is that the strength of your physique depends on your strength. Your strength is king level, and you can upgrade to king level for a long time, and it can be upgraded for free. Ichigo watched Yoruichi's body change for a while, and Ichigo didn't let go of the hand that hugged her, and quietly watched the changes in Yoruichi's body. Soon the changes on Yoruichi are over, and Yoruichi's strength has also been improved. Even the temperament, figure and appearance have become more beautiful. Seeing Yoruichi like this, Ichigo couldn't help but indulge in Yoruichi's charm. At this time, Yoruichi opened her eyes, and she was very happy to see Ichigo looking at her without blinking. Then he rolled his eyes at Ichigo, and when Ichigo saw the white eyes, the temperature of his body rose directly. And Yoruichi felt Ichigo's elevated body temperature and knew why. Immediately afterwards, she came out of Ichigo's arms and said to Ichigo, "Not now." Then she got up from the bed and stepped back. This scene made Ichigo very funny, so he laughed right away. Seeing Ichigo laughing, Yoruichi looked at Ichigo with dissatisfaction. I thought to myself, "What are you laughing at? Do you think I am funny?" Thinking about it, she gave Ichigo a stern look. Ichigo didn't take it to heart after seeing it, but let her take a look at her attributes. Yoruichi also looked at his attributes. Name: Shihouin Yoruichi, Hōgyoku. Gender: female. Age: 143. Spouse: Kurosaki Ichigo, Soul. Potential: unlimited advertisement. Ryotsu. Spirit King. Level 27 and 1,868,721. 1 millions can be broken through. Zanpakuto. Night Fist. Final Solution. Physique: Dark Knight. Profound Body. Spirit level can be broken through. Physical: mortal, spiritual, king, emperor, immortal, god, sage, Tao. Kido: King Shunpo, King Class. White Hits, King Class. Slash: King Class. Combat Experience, King Class. Instant Open, King 603. Thor Battle Body. King Class. Hollow. King. At this time, Ichigo was looking at Yoruichi with a smile on his face. And because of the improvement of physique, Yoruichi is very satisfied to see his current appearance with the system. Yoruichi is very excited and happy to see his current attributes. Of course, what's happening inside can't be heard by outsiders, because of the barrier created by Ichigo and Yoruichi. After seeing that there are so many ways to improve after the physique, Yoruichi is looking forward to what changes will be brought about by the improvement in the future. This made Yoruichi a little overwhelmed. After Yoruichi looked at his attributes, he closed the interface and turned to look at Ichigo. Seal: Backpack. Character Fragments X1868721, Intermediate Experience Beads X80,000, Advanced Experience Beads X50,000, Super Experience Beads X30,000, Breakthrough Cards X1000. Chapter 265. Preparations on both sides. While Ichigo and Yoruichi were resting in bed, Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Do you know who is the head of the family now?" Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi understood what Ichigo meant, so she said coquettishly to Ichigo, "I am doing this for you so that you can always be so good to me, you know?" Hearing Yoruichi's current words, Ichigo was very moved, so he said to her, "Of course, you are my favorite person now and in the future." Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi was even more happy, and then hugged Ichigo tightly and said, "As expected of the only man I fell in love with, he is excellent." Hearing Yoruichi's compliment, Ichigo didn't show a very happy and excited look, but hugged Yoruichi and said, "Sleep peacefully now." As I said that, I took Yoruichi into my arms and quietly felt the tranquility of the night. Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi also quieted down and began to listen to some interesting stories of the night. Of course, it was the conversation between Kuretsu Kono and the Kurosaki sisters. Because Ichigo and Yoruichi slept together, Uno Hanaritsu slept in the same room with the Kurosaki sisters. Although there are still many rooms upstairs, Uno Hanaru prefers to sleep with the Kurosaki sisters and the others. Yoruichi said to Ichigo after hearing their conversation, "Don't you want to hear what they are saying?" Ichigo immediately said, "No need, it doesn't matter what they say anyway." After saying that, Ichigo closed his eyes and fell asleep first. Advertisement and Yoruichi was very happy to see that Ichigo fell asleep without interest. Then she eavesdropped on their conversation for a while and felt that there was nothing to eavesdrop on, so she chose a comfortable position in Ichigo's arms and fell asleep. And when Uno Hanaru and the Kurosaki sisters were sleeping together, Uno Hanaru kept asking them about Ichigo. And the Kurosaki sisters also know everything about Ichigo. On the other side, inside, Hueco Mundo, Aizen Sosuke is now thinking about leaving the world and making the final preparations. And this preparation is the weapon that can restrain Ichigo and Yamamoto, the captain of Yuanlaojai. Of course it can't be called a weapon, but rather a phantom created by Hōgyoku to restrain them both. This emptiness is also an ordinary emptiness from time to time. Of course, it is the emptiness in the original book that deals with Yamamoto Yuanlaojai. And the one against Ichigo is one that can restrain any Shinigami. The reason why I say this is because this void can eliminate any Shinigami's Ryotsu and abilities, so this void can be said to be Shinigami's nemesis. When Aizen wanted to create her, Aizen didn't expect so much, but what he didn't expect was that this was actually created, and it exceeded Aizen Sosuke's original expectations, so Aizen Sosuke was very happy. Advertisement. Of course, after creating her, Aizen gave her a title called Divine Death. In turn, it means Shinigami, and he wants to express the meaning of killing any Shinigami. And she is a very successful one, so her sanity is very clear, and also very smart, which surprised Aizen Sosuke. Everyone in Soul Society is very serious, because this battle represents the superiority between Hueco Mundo and Soul Society, and who wins this battle, then there will be a big change there. But be prepared. Let's break the seal when we come to the final battle. Then Aizen Sosuke sealed her first, because her power was too strong, and she didn't want others to find her so early, so Aizen sealed her. It's just that Soul Society has researched some props to limit Aizen Sosuke's equipment, although it may not have any effect. Although I don't know if Aizen is because of bravery or seeks death by himself. Of course, Aizen Sosuke didn't know about these things, otherwise he might rush towards Yi, the king's good guardian right now and fight him desperately. Of course, this is also for him in the end. For Ichigo, he is just a clown jumping on the beam, and he can't get on the stage at all. On the other side, something similar to Hueco Mundo is happening in Soul Society. Chapter 266. Shada Road opens while the people on both sides were nervously preparing for a few days of battle. Ichigo was lying on the bed with Yoruichi relaxed, talking love words. If Aizen Sosuke and Yamamoto knew about this scene, they would definitely want to beat Ichigo to death. They were all so nervous about preparing for the battle in the next few days, but Ichigo didn't take it seriously, and was always sweet with Yoruichi. Of course, there is no way they would know. In the present world, a group of people suddenly appeared, and these people are Kasumidaiji Rurichio and her subordinates Inyoryu and Monkey Dragon, who were very active in Shinigami's sideshow. When I saw them, I would think of the new captain of the 3rd Division, Tien-Bei Shusuke. Tien-Bei Shusuke is a very tolerant person, and also a sad person. He was in the original book as the replacement for the original 3rd Division captain, Ichimaru Jin. Because he has been out on expeditions in crusade against Shu. Few Shinigami of Godei 13th Division knew him. The real mastermind behind Kasumidaji's family, in order to avenge his father's revenge, personally held Rurichio to Yamamoto's commander-in-chief and used the power of a taper sword, Bankai, to seal Yamamoto's Ryujin Jaka showdown. After learning the truth of the matter, Tien-Bei used Zanpakuto to set himself on fire as an apology, and Kira knelt on the ground to say goodbye, gaining the respect and understanding of everyone. This is also his sad life. If he hadn't been covered up by his anger, he wouldn't have done such a thing. Ichigo and Yoruichi sensed their presence the moment the three of them came into the world, so they both opened their eyes and looked at each other. Ichigo said, "Would you like to take a look?" and got up. Yoruichi thought for a while and said, "I'm not going, you should go, I'm too tired." Then he moved away from Ichigo's chest and lay down beside Ichigo. Seeing this scene, Ichigo smiled and was ready to go out. Before going out, Ichigo kissed Yoruichi's forehead, then came out of the room and walked downstairs. Advertisement coming downstairs, Ichigo saw that the Kurosakis hadn't slept yet, and the two of them were puzzled when they saw that Ichigo was going out. Kurosaki Masaki asked, "Where is Ichigo going so late?" Kurosaki Ishin also looked at Ichigo. Ichigo said, "Just to see what happened to Ryotsu, who suddenly appeared in the world just now. You two stay at home. I'll be back when I go." Then he went outside. When Kurosaki Masaki saw Ichigo walking outside, he was about to say something, but he opened his mouth and didn't say anything. And Kurosaki Ishin grabbed her hand and comforted. "Okay, the child has grown up and has his own ideas. We parents should not interfere." Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki nodded. After Ichigo came out, he rushed to the place where Ryotsu appeared with Shunpo. On the other side of Kasumi Road, Rurichio and Inyoryu Monoryu came to the world. Because of Ryotsu's problems, so many virtual appearances rushed towards them. Seeing Shu rushing towards them, Inulong directly carried Shadaluliulichio and Monkey Dragon and rushed towards the direction without Shu. Inyoryu said to Saru Ryu, "Ape Dragon, you take Mr. Rurichio to find Lord Kurosaki. Lord Kurosaki should help us." After that, he handed Kasumida Road Rurichio to Saru Ryu. But the Monkey Dragon said to Inulong, "Inulong, what should you do then?" And Shadaluliulichio looked at them without saying a word, because at this time, Shadaluliulichio didn't have the kind of CGBE feeling to be considerate of others, so now she is just a stubborn young lady. And when the three of them were in a stalemate, Shu had already surrounded them. The three people who saw this scene were all desperate. And those Shu would not give up attacking them because of their despair, so Shu rushed towards them directly. Advertisement in their despair a voice sounded, cracking the air flash, said that a terrifying attack directly wiped out all the emptiness. They were stunned when they saw this scene, but after getting used to it a little, they felt the feeling of the rest of their lives. And Ichigo, who had wiped out all the ghosts, turned away after seeing that they had nothing to do, because he thought it would be very troublesome to be entangled with these guys, so Ichigo turned and left. Also, Ichigo felt very troublesome after seeing Kasumidaiji Rurichio. What happened this time? The most important thing is that this child is a problem child who has been spoiled since childhood, so Ichigo thinks it is better not to have a relationship with her. And then the monkey dragon next to him also began to ask Shadaluliulichio, and finally she promised not to be willful. And Inyoryu immediately said to her, "Rurichio-sama, Lord Kurosaki is the one who defeated all the captains of Shinigami by one person, and even the captain of the captain is not the opponent of Lord Kurosaki. We are asking for the help of Lord Kurosaki this time. Rurichio-sama, please don't show such an expression to Lord Kurosaki." As he spoke, he begged to her. Hearing this, the dog dragon was stunned, then thought for a moment and said, "It should be something, so I didn't come." He nodded affirmatively. Of course, when they wanted to see who rescued them after Liulichio and the three of them came over on Shadalu, they saw that there was no one around, and they knew that the person must have left, so they felt very sorry. But Inyoryu immediately shouted, It was Kurosaki-sama who saved us just now, and it was Kurosaki-sama, and he started dancing. And Shihouin said, then why didn't he come out to see us? At this time, Shihouin revealed a very dissatisfied expression. Hearing this, both of them let out a sigh of relief, and Inyoryu said to Kasudaro Ruichio, then let's find a place to rest first. Let's go to Lord Kurosaki tomorrow. As he spoke, he took Kasudaro Ruichio and Ape Dragon walked towards Ichigo Place. Chapter 267. Description. After Ichigo wiped out all the emptiness, he headed home. On the way, he thought that it should not be so boring now. Because Kasumidaji Ruichio came out, it means that some troubles will happen again on behalf of Soul Society. Although it's a very simple thing for Ichigo, Ichigo feels so bored recently, so I hope someone can make trouble. It just so happens that the villains in the Shadalu chapter are some good recreational items. Their existence is something to Ichigo to make him happy, nothing more. So Ichigo can decide their life and death, but it's an honor for Ichigo to play a role and give Ichigo a little entertainment before they die. Of course they don't know, if they know it's an item in Ichigo's eyes, then they might risk death and fight Ichigo. But obviously that's not possible. When Ichigo returned home, the Kurosakis were still waiting for them in the living room watching TV. They were both relieved to see Ichigo back. Kurosaki Masaki asked Ichigo, why did so many emptiness suddenly appear just now? Did you get hurt? He looked at Ichigo and looked left and right. Seeing the relationship between Kurosaki Masaki and Ichigo is heartwarming. But he said to her, it's alright, it's just that some people came out of Soul Society just now, but they didn't hide their Ryotsu, so the virtual ones appeared. Advertisement. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki nodded. And Kurosaki Ishin, who was next to him, was puzzled when he heard Ichigo's words and asked, how could Shinigami in the next life make such a low-level mistake? Ichigo said to Kurosaki Ishin, I don't look at them like Shinigami, but like a runaway lady. Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin was also puzzled, but did not ask any further questions. Kurosaki Masaki, who was on the side, looked at the time and felt that it was a little late, so she said, okay, it's too late now, let's all go back to sleep. After saying that, she took Kurosaki Ishin and walked towards the room. Ichigo smiled when he saw them, then he turned off the TV and went upstairs to rest. When going upstairs, Kurosaki Masaki suddenly came out of the room and looked at Ichigo and said, Ichigo, I think you are different now, what's wrong? Hearing this, Ichigo knew that because of the change in his temperament, Kurosaki Masaki and the others found out. But Ichigo did not panic, but said calmly, it's nothing, it's just that the problem that has been stuck in my heart has been solved, so it's a lot easier now. Hearing Ichigo's words, Kurosaki Masaki continued to say to him, Ichigo, don't take care of anything in the future, we are all a family, aren't we? He gave Ichigo a smile. Seeing Kurosaki Masaki's smiling face, Ichigo said happily, got it. After that, I went upstairs. And Kurosaki Masaki turned around and entered the room after seeing Ichigo going up. When she went in, she saw that Kurosaki Ishin had been eavesdropping on the conversation between Ichigo and her at the door, which made her very angry, and looked at Kurosaki Ishin with a black line on her face. Seeing Kurosaki Masaki looking at him angrily, Kurosaki Ishin flattered her and said, wife, I was wrong, and looked at her pitifully. Hearing Kurosaki Ishin's favor, Kurosaki Masaki started raging on him without even bothering. Advertisement. Ask for flowers. Of course, this time Kurosaki Masaki closed the room with Ryotsu, so the sound couldn't get through. Ichigo was puzzled when he saw the brightly lit room after going up. Because this room is the room of the Kurosaki sisters, so Ichigo wondered what they were doing by staying up so late. Of course, there is still an uncertain factor in the room of the two of them. This also relieved Ichigo, so Ichigo ignored them and went straight into his room. 0. After entering, Ichigo looked at Yoruichi lying on the bed with tenderness in his eyes. At this time, Yoruichi hadn't fallen asleep, and when Ichigo came in, he said, come back, 35. Hear a voice Ichigo say, why didn't you sleep? Yoruichi replied, I just can't sleep without you, and opened his hands. Seeing this scene, Ichigo immediately put on his pajamas and came to Yoruichi's side, and hugged her directly to his chest again and put her on the pillow. Then Ichigo started talking to her about what he had just experienced. After knowing what happened, Yoruichi looked at him with a very helpless expression and said, it seems that a nobleman of the Soul Society is coming. 35. After speaking, she began to remember who this person was. Ichigo looked at her and thought about it, so he leaned into her ear and said, okay, don't think about it, go to bed early, she should be here tomorrow anyway. He rubbed Yoruichi's temple as he spoke. After hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi had no choice but to agree, thinking that he would see who came to ask his lover for help tomorrow. Later, in Ichigo's love words, Yoruichi entered a dream. Chapter 268. Morning. The next day came. The sun came in and hit Ichigo's face, so Ichigo woke up. Looking at the dazzling sunlight, Ichigo felt a little helpless. When he was about to get up, he felt the weight on his body and knew that Yoruichi was still lying on his body. So Ichigo didn't get up in a hurry, but continued to lie on the bed and looked at Yoruichi without knowing what he was thinking. Yoruichi opened his eyes after feeling Ichigo move a little. Of course she didn't get up, but looked at Ichigo, but she saw that Ichigo was looking at her all the time, which made her very shy. Yoruichi said to him, "Why keep looking at me?" Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, "Of course I'm looking at my lover. Who else would I look at?" 55. Yoruichi was very happy to hear this, but she slapped 603 Ichigo on the chest and said, "I know it makes me happy." Ichigo immediately said, "I don't want to make you happy, how can I seem to love you?" He kissed Yoruichi as he spoke. And Yoruichi didn't resist, but liked Ichigo like this to her. After Ichigo and Yoruichi had a little love talk on the bed, Ichigo said, "Okay, we should get up now, or it will be too late," and then got up. And Yoruichi pressed him again and said, "Don't worry, it's only 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock now." As he spoke, he lay on Ichigo's chest and drew circles on Ichigo's chest from time to time. Ichigo didn't refuse after feeling her action, but he said, "Although it's still early, we should get up too, shouldn't we? And parents and sister Lai are already up." 35. Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi felt it, and sure enough, they all got up, and only the Kurosaki sisters and the four of them were still in bed. After knowing this, Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "Okay, it's okay to get up now, but it will be rewarded." Then he looked at Ichigo with anticipation. When Ichigo saw Yoruichi like this, he knew what she wanted, so he said to her, "Okay, I'll buy it for you." Then he took out his card and gave it to Yoruichi. Advertisement Yoruichi was very happy after getting the card, because the things she wanted to buy were a little expensive, and she didn't have enough money. Although Ichigo also gave Yoruichi a lot of pocket money, she always bought things that girls like to buy, so the money is always spent almost the same, which makes her very helpless. So she wanted to ask Ichigo to buy it for her. Of course what she was going to buy left Ichigo speechless, so Ichigo stopped her. Because what Yoruichi buys is a car, and it's not a car, it's a kind of car. You should understand this sentence. She bought one of all types of cars, and it seems that a new sports car has been produced recently, so Yoruichi wanted Ichigo to help her buy it, but Ichigo did not agree. Because Yoruichi has too many cars at home, there should be one car in the world, even those that can only produce 1 or 2 cars. Of course, these were all things Ichigo helped her solve, otherwise she would only be stronger. The car she bought is kept in the system space, and every time Ichigo sees all the vehicles lined up in the system space, Ichigo is very helpless. Every time he would think, why did Yoruichi become like this and like cars so much? This is a thing that makes Ichigo very helpless. After Ichigo gave the card to Yoruichi, Yoruichi got up from Ichigo's body and went to the bathroom to wash. And after seeing Yoruichi go in to wash, Ichigo also got up and went in to wash with Yoruichi. Ichigo and Yoruichi cleaned up the room after washing and went out. After Ichigo and the others came out, Uno Hana was in the kitchen helping Kurosaki Masaki cook. Seeing the two of them, Kurosaki Masaki said, "Oh, dinner will be ready in a while, so let's watch TV in the living room." Then he got busy. And Egg no Hana is also helping Kurosaki Masaki's affairs, and also asks questions from time to time. And Ichigo and Yoruichi came out of the kitchen to see that the living room was empty, and in the courtyard Kurosaki Ishin was doing morning exercises. Ichigo and Yoruichi also smiled after seeing this scene, and then sat in the living room watching TV. Advertisement breakfast will be ready soon. Kurosaki Masaki said, "Breakfast is ready, Ichigo will call them all." As he said that, he went into the kitchen and took out the breakfast, with Uno Hanaritsu also helping. After hearing this, Ichigo also responded, and then said to Yoruichi, "Yoruichi, you go call dad. I'll call those 2 slackers," and went up. When Yoruichi saw it, he shrugged and went to the courtyard to call Kurosaki Ishin. After Ichigo went up, he opened the door to see the Kurosaki sisters still sleeping in bed and went in with a smile. Once inside, Ichigo started teasing them both with Kurosaki Yuzu's hair. The Kurosaki sisters woke up from their dreams after being teased by Ichigo. They wanted to complain, but they woke up immediately after seeing Ichigo. Then Kurosaki shyly asked Ichigo, "Brother Ichigo, why are you here?" Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu also looked at Ichigo in confusion. Ichigo reluctantly knocked on the heads of both of them and said, "You two are true, it's morning now, I'm here to ask you two to eat." 35 The foreheads of both of them also came up. Hearing this, they immediately shook their heads and said, "We will never dislike Ichigo brother." Seeing this, Ichigo smiled and said, "Of course, I will always take care of the two of you, as long as you don't dislike me when you grow up." After being woken up by Ichigo, the two of them immediately responded and smiled at Ichigo, "We got it." Then they got up from the bed and went to wash up. Then Kurosaki shyly said directly, "My favorite is to let Ichigo-san help me dry my hair." After seeing this scene, Ichigo also nodded, and came out of the two of them's room and waited for the two of them at the door. After more than 10 minutes passed, the Kurosaki sisters came out of the room with their hair a little wet. Seeing the two of them were wearing 1.4 heads of wet hair, Ichigo said helplessly, "I said you two are true, I don't feel at ease until now." After saying that, I used Ryotsu to clean the hair of the two of them. Kurosaki Yuzu also went on to say, "I hope my brother can take care of me like this forever." Hearing this, Ichigo also smiled and said, "Okay, it's time for us to go down for breakfast now." Then he led the two of them down. Hearing Kurosaki Yuzu's words, Kurosaki shyly nodded quickly. Chapter 269. Shihouin is here. After bringing the Kurosaki sisters down, Kurosaki Masaki said, "You two you are not up so late, and you asked your brother to call you." Ichigo stopped when he was about to give them a shot. And after Kurosaki Masaki was stopped, he looked at Ichigo very suspiciously and dissatisfiedly and said, "Ichigo, why are you always going to help them?" Hearing what Ichigo was about to say, the Kurosaki sisters preemptively said, "Of course it's because we are my brother's sister." 35 looked at Kurosaki Masaki with pride. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Masaki shook his head helplessly and said, "Forget it, leave you alone, let your brother take care of it." Then he set his eyes on Ichigo. And Ichigo was looked at by Kurosaki Masaki and shook his head helplessly and said, "Okay, I promise to talk about them seriously," and nodded to Kurosaki Masaki. Kurosaki Masaki also nodded after seeing Ichigo's appearance, and then sat down with Ichigo and Kurosaki sisters and started dinner. Suddenly someone knocked on the door during the meal. Hearing a knock on the door, Ichigo got up and went to open the door, and Kurosaki Masaki originally asked Kurosaki sisters to open the door, but she didn't say anything after seeing Ichigo go. Ichigo opened the door and saw the three familiar people from last night, so Ichigo was about to say something. And Yoryu said directly to Ichigo first, "Your Excellency Kurosaki, thank you so much for your help yesterday," and bowed to Ichigo. And the monkey dragon also bowed. Kasumidaji Rurichio looked at Ichigo curiously beside him. When Ichigo heard it, he said, "It's okay, it's just a matter of time." He waved his hand. Advertisement and Inulong then said, "How can it be possible? That is a life-saving grace for us," and bowed again, and Apelong also followed Inulong and bowed. Seeing this scene, Ichigo also became helpless, but immediately said to them, "Okay, come in first." He let them in. Kasumi rode, Rurichio and the others were not pretentious, so they followed Ichigo in. Seeing everything in the yard, they were a little amazed, and then they got used to it. Ichigo said to them, "Go into the house." Then he walked towards the house by himself. The three of them looked at each other and nodded, and followed Ichigo into the house. After Ichigo asked them to change their shoes after entering, and they smelled the scent of breakfast, the bellies of Inuosaurus and Apiosaurus rang. And Ichigo said, "If you don't mind, let's eat with us." And Inyoryu directly refused to say, "No need, Your Excellency Kurosaki, we." When he was talking about something else to say, Kasumidaji Rurichio's stomach suddenly rang. At this time, Shihouin face turned red, and she was a little shy. Dog Dragon and Ape Dragon were also embarrassed and didn't know what to do. At this time, Ichigo said to them, "Okay, let's all come in and have dinner together." After saying that, he first pulled Kasumida Road Liulichio in. Advertisement and Kasumidaji Rurichio was very shy when Ichigo held up his hand and walked inside, but he did not reject Ichigo, but felt a little happy. Inyoryu and Apelong saw Ichigo drag Kasumida Road Rurichio in, and they followed. Everyone at the dinner table saw Ichigo pulling a girl in, and two people appeared behind him. At this time, Inyoryu was very surprised when he saw Yoruichi and said, "Aren't you the former captain of the 2nd Division and Shihouin Yoruichi, the owner of the Shihouin family?" Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin and Egg no Hanaritsu looked at Kasumidaiji Rurichio in surprise. Yoruichi also understood what he meant, but he didn't say anything after seeing Inyoryu's fearful appearance. And this time Kurosaki Masaki said to Ichigo, "Who are they?" Because they both knew the identity of Kasumida Road Rurichio, they were amazed that she would be here. 607. Hearing this, Yoruichi also nodded and said, "Yes, I didn't expect you to know me." At this time, Yoruichi suddenly looked at Kasumidaiji Rurichio and said, "Isn't this the current heir of Kasumidaiji's family? Why is he here?" After Ichigo explained their origins, Kurosaki Masaki said to them enthusiastically, "Then let's have dinner together." 35 After that, he pulled Kasudaro Rurichio to sit beside him and brought them breakfast, let them eat. At this time, Inyoryu continued, "Because it was rumored in Soul Society that you are the wife of Lord Kurosaki, we." He said that he suddenly stopped talking, and there was a look of fear on his face. Chapter 270. Acceptance. After taking a bite of the meal, Kasumida Road Rurichio praised happily, "This meal is really delicious, it's the first time I've eaten such a delicious thing, and the speed of eating is even faster." And Inulong and Yuanlong saw that Shihouin was so happy and couldn't wait to eat. Afterwards, the two of them also praised each other, and then buried their heads and ate. And seeing them eating so happily, Kurosaki Masaki said happily, "Eat slowly, don't choke, there are more." Then he poured a glass of water for all three of them. When they saw it, they quickly thanked and said, "Thank you so much, we'll pack up after a while," but after that, they continued to eat. Hearing what Kurosaki Masaki was about to say, Kasumidaiji Rurichio said directly, "Indeed, just wait for Anutramanulong and you two to clean up." He settled down. And when they heard it, they said very seriously, "Got it," and also got up and nodded solemnly. And Kurosaki Masaki had to agree after seeing this scene. "But I wanted to wait a while and then help me a little bit." After everyone finished eating, Shihouin asked Inulong and Apelong to pack up, while she came to the living room to sit down and rest. Ichigo, who saw this scene, didn't say anything, but said, "Let Kasumidaiji Rurichio take a rest." After saying that, she told the Kurosaki sisters not to disturb Kasumi-dai Rurichio. And when Inyoryu and Saruryu went into the kitchen to clean up things, Kurosaki Masaki also went in, because she was afraid that these people who came from Soul Society didn't know much about the world, so she wanted to teach by the side. Under the guidance of Kurosaki Masaki, they quickly cleaned up the dishes. And when he was about to say something in the living room, Yoruichi said, "Shush. Don't talk. Rurichio is asleep. Let's go outside and talk." He took Kurosaki's sister's hand and went out first. And after everyone except Kasumida Road Rurichio came out, Ichigo looked at Inu Dragon and Monkey Dragon and said, "Tell me, what do you have to do with me?" Advertisement. I was surprised to hear that Inu Long and Apiosaurus here, and seeing everyone here leaked the expressions that they were looking for Ichigo. Then Inyoryu said, "As expected, it's impossible to hide from your excellency Kurosaki." Monkey Dragon also echoed. Then Inyoryu explained why they came to this world to find Ichigo. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki, Uno Hinari, Kurosaki sisters and Yoruichi are very angry, and they are very sympathetic to what happened to Kasumida-ji Rurichio. Because women are more emotional, aren't they? After hearing this, Ichigo said calmly, "Then you asked me to get rid of that person, right?" He looked at Inulong very easily. And Inyoryu nodded and said, "That's true, because only Lord Kurosaki can help us." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin asked curiously, "What about those Shinigami of Soul Society?" Hearing Kurosaki Ishin's question, Uno Hinari was also very curious to look at Inyoryu. And Inulong said helplessly, "We also want to ask Shinigami for help, but because there are other people in the Central Room 46, and they have been sending assassins to hunt us down, so we have no choice but to come to this world." Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki was very angry, and even Uno Hinari was angry, and the Kurosaki sisters didn't say anything, and started swearing directly. Ichigo looked at them and said, "Okay, stop talking, it's useless to be angry now." After hearing Ichigo's words, they had no choice but to put down their anger. But the Kurosaki sisters still hugged Ichigo's arm and said, "Ichigo brother, please help Rurichio." They looked at Ichigo with anticipation. Even Inuosaurus and Apiosaurus looked at Ichigo nervously. And Ichigo said helplessly, "Am I someone who can't help me?" He put his hand on the Kurosaki sisters' heads. Advertisement. The Kurosaki sisters jumped up with joy when they heard Ichigo's words, and even Inryu and Ape Dragon cried with joy. Seeing this scene, Ichigo said speechlessly, "Why are you two men crying?" Hearing this, Inyoryu and Apelong immediately put their tears away, and bowed to Ichigo and said, "Thank you so much, Your Excellency Kurosaki." When they were about to cry, I saw Ichigo looking at them, so they stopped immediately. And Ichigo then looked at them both and said, "I don't think you have a place to live right now, so just stay with us." The Kurosaki sisters were very happy to hear Ichigo's words, and even Kurosaki Masaki, Uno Hana and Yoruichi were also very happy. Because they all like Kasumida Road Liulichio, they hope that Kasumida Road Liulichio can stay. And Inulong said in a panic, "No need, Your Excellency Kurosaki, we still, King's Jiao, don't bother you, find it yourself." And Kurosaki Masaki said, "No need, just stay here, anyway, there is a house next to it, you can live in that house." Hearing this, the two of them were very moved and said, "Thank you so much," and sobbed. Seeing this scene, Ichigo glared at them, and they stopped immediately. Seeing Ichigo's appearance, Kurosaki Masaki shook his head helplessly, but didn't say anything. Then Kurosaki Masaki said to Kurosaki Ishin, "Husband, go and help them make a room." After hearing that, Kurosaki Ishin nodded and said, "Got it," then he walked towards the other room. And the dog dragon and the ape dragon also quickly followed. Chapter 271. Arrangements. After Kurosaki Ishin and Inanosaurus cleaned up the room, they went back to Ichigo and the others. And while Kurosaki Ishin and the others were tidying up the room, Ichigo and the others were resting idly in the yard. When Kurosaki Ishin saw their appearance, he was envious, but he immediately came to Kurosaki Masaki and said, "It's all packed up, wife," and looked at Kurosaki Masaki and laughed. Ichigo and the others all snickered when they saw this scene, because they knew that Kurosaki Ishin was very afraid of his wife, but they laughed when they saw him again. And Inulong and Apelong wanted to laugh when they saw it, but held back. Kurosaki Masaki said after hearing Kurosaki Ishin's words, "Okay, take a break for that long." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin immediately nodded and smiled and sat down on the reclining chair beside him. And said to the dog dragon and the monkey dragon, "You two also sit down, 607 doesn't need to stand all the time," and waved. After seeing the dog dragon and the monkey dragon, they agreed and sat on the last reclining chair together. And when Kurosaki Ishin was lying comfortably, Kurosaki Masaki said, "Husband, you and Inuran Manulong will sleep in that room tonight," she said casually. Kurosaki Ishin was puzzled and asked, "What?" Kurosaki Masaki added, "Let's sleep with Inuran Manulong today." After Kurosaki Masaki finished speaking, Kurosaki Ishin also understood what she meant. Advertisement. But Kurosaki Ishin didn't want to sleep with Inyoryu Seiryu, and wanted to sleep with Kurosaki Masaki, so he struggled and said, "What about Rurichio?" Then he looked at Kurosaki Masaki expectantly. And Kurosaki Masaki said directly, "Rurichio, you don't have to worry, she sleeps with me at night, and you sleep with Inyoryu and his CGBs," she said very firmly. Kurosaki Ichigo was very desperate after hearing this, but had to agree. And Yoryu and Saruryu immediately thanked Kurosaki Masaki, "Thank you so much for taking us in," and bowed again. Kurosaki Masaki waved his hand indifferently and said, "It's alright, it's just a trivial matter anyway, and this house is covered by a barrier, so it's impossible for anyone below the level of the captain to find it, even if it is, so the combat power of the commander-in-chief level can't open this barrier, so you can live here with peace of mind recently." Ichigo also continued, "Yes, you can stay here for a few days in peace. Yoruichi and I will go to Soul Society tomorrow to get your business done." Hearing this, the dog dragon ape dragon is grateful again. And Ichigo let them wave their hands without having to show up so much. After arranging everything, Ichigo and the others wanted to rest in the yard, and Ichigo saw that Inuosaurus and Apiosaurus were still sitting on a reclining chair, so he took out a reclining chair from the system space and looked at them said, "You both lie down and rest." 9. After Inulong thanked him, he got up and lay on the reclining chair taken out from the system space. Ape Dragon saw Inulong lay down, and he also lay down. Afterwards, the two of them didn't know what was wrong, but they were suddenly drowsy, and they fell asleep thinking that it was very safe here. Seeing that the two of them fell asleep, Ichigo and the others also smiled and closed their eyes and rested. Ichigo used his ability to put them to sleep just now, because Ichigo saw that they were very tired, so he made them into a deep sleep by himself. Advertisement in Yoruichi didn't stop after seeing what Ichigo did, because it worked for them. Of course, Rurichio, who was sleeping in the house, was also put into a deep sleep by Ichigo. Because Rurichio Kasumi has experienced so many things at such a young age, of course she will feel tired and uneasy. They all saw these Ichigo, and Kurosaki Masaki felt that she was very pitiful, so he decided to sleep with her at night, hoping to make her recover. Then they closed their eyes and rested here. Because these are the living customs that they have become accustomed to, so they do it involuntarily. While they were still resting, on the other side, Kasumida Road's house. The old retainer Yunjang, who was about to usurp the throne, was very scared when he knew that Rurichio on Kasumida Road had gone to the world to find Ichigo. But it's a little more reassuring to think about what they're researching. Then he said, "The three of you, Kanai Banzo, go to the world and kill Kasumida Road Rurichio." And in the shadow, the three people of Sukui Hanzo nodded and left. And on the other side, someone said, "Knowing that they will die, they sent them to assassinate in this world." And the old retainer Yunjing said, "Anyway, it's just for them to test it out." After the old retainer Yunjing said that the man didn't say anything, he just said, and disappeared. Seeing that person was gone, the old retainer Yunjing also walked out of this room. In this world, Ichigo and the others still don't know that the Shadaji family has sent a killer, but even if Ichigo knows about it, they will be disdainful, and they will not arrange any preparations. Chapter 272. Shadalu Liuli Chio's Thoughts. After everyone rested for several hours, everyone still didn't get up, but Kasumida Road Rurichio got up. Seeing that there was no one in the room, she went outside out of curiosity. Seeing that everyone was resting in the yard, Kasumida Road Rurichio lightly came to Ichigo's side and looked at the man who could save her. After watching for a while, Kasumida Road Rurichio said, "This man is just more handsome than many others, can he really help me?" His face flushed as he spoke. Said play and stretched out his hand towards Ichigo, trying to do something on Ichigo's face. But Ichigo immediately said, "What do you want to do?" He opened his eyes. Kasumidaji Rurichio was shocked when he heard Ichigo's words, and then looked at Ichigo with dissatisfaction and said, "Can't you not scare me?" Hearing this, Ichigo said to Kasumida Road Rurichio, "I don't want to say sorry to someone who wants to do something to me while I'm resting." 35. Hearing this, Kasumida Road Rurichio was very angry and said, "I didn't want to do something to you." Finally, the voice became smaller and smaller. Seeing Kasumida Road Rurichio like this, Ichigo shook his head helplessly, then waved his hand. A reclining chair appeared next to him, and Ichigo looked at her and said, "Lie down." Hearing Ichigo's words, Kasumidaji Rurichio, who is a ghost messenger, actually did so. After lying down, she wanted to get up immediately, because she actually listened to Ichigo, which made Kasumidaji Rurichio very angry. But after lying down, I don't know what happened, this reclining chair seemed to have magic power, which made Kasumidaji Rurichio feel very comfortable, so she didn't want to get up. And Ichigo said to her, "How is it? It's very comfortable." He looked at her jokingly. Advertisement Kasumidaji Rurichio saw Ichigo's appearance and wanted to say something unpleasant, but because she felt the comfort of the reclining chair, she said, "It's okay." After saying that, she immediately covered the doll, and then looked at Ichigo's command. People said with disgusting eyes, "It's okay." After speaking, he turned to look at the sky. And at this time, Ichigo didn't do anything to Hexia Road Rurichio, but also followed her to look at the sky. After watching it for a while, Kasumidaji Rurichio thought about Ichigo and asked, "Can you help me?" There was a look of anticipation in his eyes. And Ichigo turned to look at her, saw the expectation in her eyes, and said firmly to her, "Of course I will help you, or do you think I will let you lie here now?" Hearing this, Kasumidaji Rurichio burst into tears, looked at Ichigo and said, "Thank you, thank you." Seeing Kasumida Road Rurichio crying, Ichigo was overwhelmed immediately, and immediately got up and came to Kasumi Road Rurichio and began to comfort her. But Sha Dalu Liuli Chio cried loudly, and this cry woke everyone up. Kurosaki Masaki and the others saw Ichigo comforting Kasumidaji Rurichio next to them, and they looked at Ichigo with dissatisfaction and said, "Ichigo, how can you bully Rurichio and make a girl cry?" 35. And when Ichigo was about to explain, he didn't know what was going on, but he immediately stopped talking and sat down on his seat. Seeing that Ichigo didn't speak, they didn't say anything. Inulong and Yuanlong immediately came to Sha Dalu next to Liulichio, looked at her and asked, "Lord Liulichio, what happened?" And Sha Dalu Liulichio didn't say anything, but kept crying. Seeing this scene, the two of them became helpless, and Kurosaki Mizaki saw that there was nothing they could do, so she came to Kasumida Road Rurichio and took her into her arms and comforted her. Ask for flowers. Advertisement and Kasumidaji Rurichio felt mother's love in Kurosaki Masaki's arms, so she slowly stopped crying. When Kurosaki Masaki looked at Kasumidaji Rurichio who was in her arms again, it turned out that she had actually fallen asleep. At this time, Yoruichi looked at them and said, "Rurichio has too many things on her mind, and she just vented it at this time. As long as she wakes up, she will be fine." Then she looked at Inu Dragon and Ape Dragon. As for Inuran and Monarch, they bowed to Ichigo and confessed their mistakes after they understood the matter and said, "I'm so sorry, we actually misunderstood Lord Kurosaki," and bowed several times. 0. Seeing that the two of them were busy and Ichigo and the others set their sights on Kasumida Road Rurichio. Hearing this, everyone looked at Sha Dalu Liulichio with pity and pity. Kasumidaji Rurichio also showed a relieved look, shrank towards Kurosaki Masaki's arms and continued to sleep. As for Kurosaki Masaki, her mother's love exploded directly, and she said to Kasumida Road Rurichio who was still in her arms, "Okay, my mother is here. My mother won't pull Rurichio away now," she said while stroking Kasadori Rurichio's hair. Seeing this scene, Ichigo waved his hand and said, "It's alright, it's just a small matter." Hearing this, they were even more ashamed. Seeing that they were a little remorseful for their situation, Ichigo asked them to clean up the yard to make up for it, and they immediately nodded and agreed. Kasumi Road Rurichio said from time to time in Kurosaki Masaki's arms, "Mother, I miss you so much." Everyone who saw this scene was very angry, especially the women like Kurosaki Masaki and Yoruichi. Even the Kurosaki sisters got angry. Chapter 273. Preparing meals. Then Kurosaki Masaki said to Ichigo, "I'm going back with Rurichio, you guys can go buy some meat and come back." After saying that, he carried Kasumidai Rurichio and walked into the house. And Ichigo nodded after hearing her words. After Kurosaki Masaki entered the room, Ichigo looked at the others. Seeing everyone doing their own thing, Ichigo nodded. Dogosaurus and Apiosaurus are cleaning the yard and pulling weeds. Kurosaki sisters went in after Kurosaki Masaki entered the house, not knowing what to do. In the yard, Kurosaki Ishin, Koretsu Kono, Yoruichi, and Ichigo were left with nothing to do. Kurosaki's 67 heart was about to say something when the phone rang. Then he answered the phone, not knowing what it was. He said with a serious expression, "I see, I'll go right away," and hung up the phone. Then he looked at Ichigo and said, "I'm going to the hospital, because there is an operation to be done." Then he looked at Ujiwali. And Kaoru Kono knew what was going on when she saw Kurosaki Ishin looking at her, so she said, "Is there anything I can do to help?" She looked at him happily. "Because no Hana Lai has never helped Ichigo and the others well since he came here, so I want to do something to help them." Kurosaki Ishin was very happy when he heard the words of no Hana. There is indeed one thing that needs the help of Uhana, that is, the injury is serious, so I hope Uhana can use Kaido to treat it. Hearing this, Egg Jawali nodded happily and said, "I can help you, and I'm also very happy." Hearing the promise of the egg, Kurosaki Ishin said happily, "This is really good, then let's go now, otherwise I'm afraid he won't be able to carry it." Hearing this, Kaoru Kono knew what was going on, so he nodded and went out with Kurosaki Ishin. And Ichigo and Yoruichi stayed at home and got bored. Advertisement. So Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Let's go buy some vegetables and meat and come back." Yoruichi nodded and said, "Okay, I'm not bored anyway. Let's go with you," 35 said and hugged Ichigo's arm. And Ichigo smiled after seeing Yoruichi's action and walked outside together. After coming outside, Yoruichi asked Ichigo, "What are you going to do about Rurichio tomorrow?" And Ichigo said directly, "Just kill everyone." He was full of confidence. This makes Ichigo look very attractive, which is one of the things Yoruichi fell in love with Ichigo. Of course, what Yoruichi likes most is Ichigo's character. Except for the people he cares about, others are strangers to him, so the life and death of strangers means nothing to him. This made Yoruichi very reassured. Otherwise, what would happen if someone kidnapped Ichigo with morality? Is he helping others or his own relatives? This needs to be considered. Then Yoruichi happily hugged Ichigo's arm and walked with him. Ichigo was a little stunned to see Yoruichi laughing all the time, because he didn't know what Yoruichi was thinking. But Ichigo didn't think much about it, because as long as the person he loves is happy, it doesn't matter what he is happy for. Soon, after the two of them bought things, they saw the dog dragon and the ape dragon resting on the reclining chair. Suddenly, Inyoryu and Saruryu saw the door open. Ichigo and Yoruichi came back and got up and bowed to them both. "Welcome home, Lord Kurosaki and Lord Shihouin." Hearing this, Ichigo said helplessly to them, "No need for this, we don't need this here," and nodded. After hearing this, although they nodded and agreed, they were still a little cautious. Advertisement. After seeing this scene, Ichigo shook his head helplessly and ignored them entering the room. After Ichigo and Yoruichi entered the house, Inyoryu and Saruryu relaxed and lay back again. After Ichigo and the others went in, they saw Kurosaki Masaki preparing dishes in the kitchen. The Kurosaki sisters were sitting in the living room watching TV. Seeing the absence of Rurichio on Kasumi Road, Yoruichi asked, "Mom, where is Rurichio?" And Kurosaki Masaki replied, "She's sleeping in the room. Let her rest a little longer, call her after dinner." Yoruichi also nodded after hearing that. After putting down all the things he bought, Ichigo said to her, "Let me cook today." Then he started to cook. And Kurosaki Masaki didn't stop after seeing it, but said, "Let me help you too." Speaking of 1.4, I also started to help Ichigo. Yoruichi also said to them after seeing this scene, "Let me help too, it's too fast to be done by multiple people, isn't it?" Hearing this, Ichigo had no choice but to agree. Then they got busy in the kitchen, because there are more people today, so there are more meals to make. While Ichigo and the others were cooking, Kurosaki Ishin and the others also came back. When Inryu and Apiosaurus saw it, they thought it was the same as Ichigo and Yoruichi, and bowed to them. After seeing this scene, Kurosaki Ishin was very uncomfortable. Because they have been in this world for a long time, these customs have long been forgotten. Chapter 274. Miss. They didn't change after Kurosaki Ishin said it and just shook their heads and went in. And Uziwali is still immune to these etiquettes, because in Soul Society, Uziwali is the captain of the 4th division, so don't those team members salute her every day? So they're used to it. After the two of them went in, the dog dragon and the ape dragon sat back again. And they both thought to themselves, why is Captain Eggflower here with Lord Kurosaki? Of course, the two of them just thought about it and didn't dare to ask. After Kurosaki Ishin and Kono Hinari came in, they saw that only the Kurosaki sisters were watching TV in the living room and asked, Yuzu shyly, how about your mother and them? Kurosaki Ishin asked them both. After the two of them heard Kurosaki shyly said, Ichigo-san, Mom and Yoruichi-san are cooking in the kitchen. Rurichio is resting in the room. Kurosaki Ishin nodded after hearing that. And Egg G26 Wall said to them, I'll go in and help. Then he walked towards the kitchen. And Kurosaki Ishin, they didn't stop her and let her go. After the Eggflower Retsu entered, Ichigo and the others saw Kurosaki Masaki said to her, Retsu, just rest outside for a while, leave it to us here. When Yoruichi was about to say something after hearing this, Yoruichi continued, that's right. You just got back from a busy day, so take a rest. Even Ichigo nodded to her. After seeing this, Eggjawali had no choice but to nod and say, okay, then I'll go to rest. After that, he walked outside. Ichigo and the others started to cook again after seeing Kaori of the eggs go out. Advertisement. And after Eggjawali went out, she walked towards the living room. Because she wants to rest on the sofa and watch TV to relieve her boredom. Of course, all the rooms upstairs are equipped with TVs, but Kazunoka thought that watching TV alone would be boring, so he went to the living room to watch it with the Kurosaki sisters. Of course Kurosaki Ishin went back to his room because he wanted to rest. But when I entered the room, I saw Kasumidaji Rurichio was sleeping, so I quit and sat next to Kurosaki Yuzu and watched a TV show together. While watching TV, Kurosaki Ishin and the others also chatted about things from time to time. Of course it's Kurosaki Ishin and Uno Hinari talking about something, and the Kurosaki sisters have been staring at the TV. Even if they wanted to interject, the two of them didn't know what to say, so they watched TV quietly. About 10 minutes after Kurosaki Ishin and the others returned, the meal was ready. Kurosaki Masaki brought out the dish and looked at Kurosaki Ishin and said, Husband, let Rurichio get up to eat, and by the way, let's also call the Inyoryu and Monoryu in the yard. After that, he went in. And Kurosaki Ishin called them immediately after hearing it. Kurosaki Ishin went to call Inyoryu and Saruryu first, and then went into the room to call Kasumidaiji Rurichio. After entering the room, after calling Sha Dalu Liulichio a few times, she didn't wake up, so she went to the side and pushed her a few times and she also woke up. When Sha Dalu Liulichio saw the person who came, she asked curiously, what's wrong? As he spoke, he caressed his eyes hazy. Kurosaki Ishin, who saw this scene, was adored by Kasumi Road Rurichio, but he immediately recovered and said, okay, get up and eat first, go to sleep after eating. Hearing Husha Road, Liulichio also woke up, and felt that her stomach was very empty, and it was still ringing from time to time, so she immediately got up. Advertisement. Seeing Kasumidaji Rurichio rising up, Kurosaki Ishin nodded immediately before Kasumidaji Rurichio came out. Seeing that Kurosaki Ishin came out, but Kasumidaji Rurichio didn't come out, Kurosaki Masaki asked, Husband, where's Rurichio? She looked at him with dissatisfaction. At this time, everyone except Ichigo and Yoruichi also looked towards Kurosaki Ishin. Kurosaki Ishin immediately said, Rurichio is coming out now. Before he could finish, Kasumidaji Rurichio came out. Seeing that Liulichio came out, everyone stopped looking at him like that. This gave Kurosaki Ishin a sigh of relief, and Kurosaki Masaki said softly to Kasumi Road Rurichio. Rurichio, go wash and then come to eat. Hearing this, Kasumidaji Rurichio was very overwhelmed, because when she was in Soul Society, she was always helped by others, so she was too good at washing. Seeing Kasumida Road Rurichio sticking in that 607, Kurosaki Masaki asked curiously, what happened to Rurichio? At this time, everyone looked at Liulichio, which made her very shy. At this time, Inulong said, Lord Chio, Liuli, has been serving people since childhood, so I don't know how to wash and dress. Hearing this, everyone immediately remembered that Kasumida Road Rurichio is a big lady. For the eldest lady who does not need to do everything by herself and can be done well by the servants, these things are difficult. Thinking of this, Kurosaki Masaki immediately got up and came to the side of Rurichio on Kasumi Road and said, I'm so sorry, Rurichio, I'll take you there. Then he took her to the bathroom. And Ichigo looked at Kasumidaiji Rurichio with contempt, as if saying, what a lady. This made Kasumidaiji Rurichio very angry, so he said to Ichigo, I will definitely learn this kind of thing. After saying that, he pulled Kurosaki Masaki and walked towards the bathroom. Chapter 275. Change. Seeing Kasumidaiji Rurichio's angry and firm words towards him, Ichigo was shocked, but he still didn't believe her. Because he knew that Liulichio was an eldest lady, and the eldest ladies had similar habits, so it was impossible for him to insist on doing one thing well. So Ichigo didn't take it to heart, but chatted with Yoruichi and the others. After Kasumidaiji Rurichio and Kurosaki Masaki went to the bathroom, Kurosaki Masaki was about to help Kasumidai Rurichio wash up. But Kasumidaiji Rurichio refused to let it go, and instead said to Kurosaki Masaki, teach me, I just don't believe that I can't learn it, and then looked at Kurosaki Masaki very firmly. And Kurosaki Masaki was very helpless after seeing Kasumidaiji Rurichio's appearance, but explained it to her one by one. Kasumidaiji Rurichio followed Kurosaki Masaki's words and was very happy when everything was done. He immediately ran into the restaurant and looked at Ichigo and said, look, I've already learned it. Then he looked at Ichigo very proudly. And Inulong and Saruto were very happy when they saw Rurichio washing themselves, and said, Rurichio-sama is really amazing. Of course, both Inyoryu and Apelong were really happy for Kasumidaiji Rurichio's actions. Kasumidaiji Rurichio was also very happy and proud, but she was a little dissatisfied when she saw Ichigo's plain face. Kasumi Road Rurichio looked at Ichigo and said, why don't you react at all? 9. And Ichigo raised his brows speechlessly and said, this is something that children can do. You take this thing to me to praise. You are really proud. When I said the word pride, it was a little harder. Kasumidaiji Rurichio blushed immediately after hearing this, and looked at Ichigo very angrily. Advertisement. At this time, Kurosaki Masaki came out of the bathroom and came to the restaurant to see Kasumidaiji Rurichio very angry, so he came to her and asked, what's wrong, Rurichio? And Kasumidaiji Rurichio kept staring at Ichigo. Kurosaki Masaki knew it, so she said to Ichigo, Ichigo, you are really, why don't you let Rurichio? She said and winked at Ichigo. He blinked a gesture. But Ichigo didn't care about Kurosaki Masaki's gesture to him at all. Instead he went directly to Kasumi Road Rurichio to look at her and said, I said a little too much just now, but if you want others not to worry about you so much, then learn to be self-sufficient. Be self-sufficient, don't always let others worry about knowing it. After speaking, he returned to his seat and sat down. Kurosaki Masaki felt right after hearing what Ichigo said, so she said to Kasumidaiji Rurichio, Ichigo is for your own good too. And Liulichio blushed, but this red was not the same as before. And the look in Ichigo's eyes was no longer the same as before, but rather shy. Of course, these were seen by Kurosaki Masaki next to him, and no one else noticed. Then Kurosaki Masaki said to Kasumidaiji Rurichio, now let's go eat. After hearing Kurosaki Masaki's words, Kasumidaiji Rurichio also nodded, lowered her head and sat down with Kurosaki Masaki. Seeing that everyone was seated, Kurosaki Ishin said, okay, everyone is seated, so let's eat. After speaking, everyone started to eat. After just taking a bite, Kasumida Road Rurichio praised, this meal is really delicious. Who made it? Hearing Kasumidaiji Rurichio's praise, Yu replied, this is made by Ichigo, it's delicious. Advertisement. I was surprised to hear that Ichigo made Kasudaiji Rurichio, but soon accepted it. Then Liulichio stopped talking and started to eat. And while eating, Kasumida Road Rurichio looked up at Ichigo from time to time, which made Ichigo very puzzled and didn't know why he looked at himself. But Ichigo didn't take it to heart, and instead continued to eat. Soon Ichigo and the others finished eating. After eating, Kasumida Road Rurichio suddenly said, what should I call you? When they heard Ichigo, they laughed, and Kurosaki Masaki said, call Ishin and my uncle and auntie. Ichigo is my brother, and Yuzu Shirley is just by name. 5. Hearing Husha Road, Liulichio also nodded, and Unohanaru said to her, just call me my sister. Hearing Unohanaru's words, Kurosaki Ishin looked at Unohana Retsu in surprise. And the egg flower is very gentle. Wang Diz looked at Kurosaki Ishin and said, "What's wrong with this, Ishin brother?" And Kurosaki Ishin immediately shook his head and let out a sigh of relief when the egg flower was not looking at him that much. Of course, Kasumida Road Liuli Chio was also taken aback by Egg Jawali's eyes, but she also nodded and said that she would call her that. Eggflower Lai was also very happy when she found out. After Kasumidaiji Ruri Chio called Ichigo, their problem was solved. Kurosaki Masaki began to clear the table. Of course, Sha Dalu Liuli Chio also began to help, because she also wanted to change herself, and she didn't want to become a person who had to rely on others for everything. So Kasumidaiji Ruri Chio also actively started to help Kurosaki Masaki clean up. Chapter 276. Noon. After finishing all the things, Kurosaki Masaki said to Kasumidaiji Ruri Chio, "Ruri Chio, go to the room and rest," he said to Kasumidaiji Ruri Chio with great concern. Because Sha Dalu Ruri Chio was sweating profusely, so she wanted to let her go to the room to rest. And Sha Dalu Liuli Chio did not refuse after hearing this, but nodded and went back to the room quietly. Seeing that Kasumidaiji Ruri Chio went in without wiping the sweat off her face, Kurosaki Masaki walked directly to the room, trying to help her wash the sweat off her face. After Kurosaki Masaki and Kasumi Oji Ruri Chio both entered the room, Ichigo and the others went to the living room to watch TV. After Kurosaki Masaki entered the room, when she saw that Kasumidaiji Ruri Chio was about to go to bed, she said, "Wait a minute, Ruri Chio, wash up first and then go to sleep." Kasumidaiji Ruri Chio nodded after feeling the sweat on his body, and followed Kurosaki Masaki to the 610 bathroom in the room. Afterwards, Kasumida Road Liuli Chio went into the bathtub and started cleaning. Of course, Kurosaki Masaki helped her clean it. After washing her, Kurosaki Masaki came out of the room. Seeing Ichigo and the others sitting in the living room watching TV, they said to them, "Go back to your room and rest for a while." After hearing that, they all went back to the room, and Kurosaki Ishin looked at Kurosaki Masaki and said, "Where am I going?" And Kurosaki Masaki said directly, "Follow them and go to that room to sleep." He also pointed to the dog dragon monkey dragon walking towards another room outside the room. Advertisement. Seeing this, Kurosaki Ishin had no choice but to nod and go where he went. Of course his eyes were full of resentment. And Kurosaki Masaki didn't seem to see it at all. After all of them left, Kurosaki Masaki looked at the Kurosaki sisters and said, "I told you to go back to rest, why don't you go?" Hearing Kurosaki Masaki's words, the two of them immediately thought about running upstairs. And Ichigo and the others were very frightened when they saw the two of them, so they ran up to them and laughed. Kurosaki Masaki saw them and said, "Then what are you going to do?" They stopped laughing when they heard Ichigo. Ichigo looked at Kurosaki Masaki and said, "I'll go up and take a rest." And Yoruichi and Uno Hinari also nodded. After seeing this, Kurosaki Masaki also nodded and said, "Okay. Then I'll go back to the room and sleep with Ruri Chio." After speaking, he walked into the room. And Ichigo and the others also went upstairs. After Ichigo came upstairs, he went to the door of the Kurosaki sisters' room, looked at the two of them, and said, "You two sleep together. I'll just rest in Yuzu Shiarli's room." After that, he entered the Kurosaki sisters' room. After Ichigo went in, Yoruichi and Yoruichi came to Ichigo and Yoruichi's room. Yoruichi jumped on the bed and said, "I like this feeling the most." And Eggflower Lai laughed lightly after seeing Yoruichi's appearance. Yoruichi looked at her in confusion, CGBE, and asked, "Sister Lai, why are you laughing?" He got up and looked at her. Advertisement. And Yoruichi looked at her next to Yoruichi and said, "Of course it's because I saw Yoruichi that you were so spirited like a child, so I laughed." Yoruichi was very happy to hear the words of the Eggflower. "Do I really look like a child, Lai's sister?" Yoruichi revealed that he was very happy. When Yoruichi heard Yoruichi's question, Eggnoka nodded and said, "Of course." Hearing the affirmation of Eggflower Lai, Yoruichi was very happy and said, "Sister Lai, you know that I always hope that I can always act like a child to Ichigo, and Ichigo can always be good to me, always love and care for me," 35 said with a very happy look. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Yoruichi was very envious, but immediately hid it. And Yoruichi, who was immersed in his own fantasy world, didn't see the change in the eyes of the egg. Yoruichi came back to his senses immediately, and felt that it was a bad thing to say this in front of Uziwali, so he immediately said to Uziwali, "Sister Lai, look at what I said, let's rest." After he finished speaking, he put away the big characters, and beckoned to Egg Jawali to let her lie down. And Kaoru the egg lay down when Yoruichi beckoned. The two of them also lay on the bed with their own thoughts, and on the bed, the corners of Yoruichi's mouth cocked up from time to time. On the other side, after Ichigo entered the Kurosaki sisters' room, the two of them were very happy to see that Ichigo was resting with them, so they said and rushed towards her, "Ichigo brother, brother." When Ichigo saw the movements of the two of them, he had to reach out to catch the two of them, then put it down and flicked both of their foreheads and said, "You two really don't listen." Hearing Ichigo's words, the two of them stuck out their tongues at Ichigo mischievously. But after seeing Ichigo's serious look, he put it away immediately. And Ichigo didn't think about criticizing them after seeing their appearance, so he said to them, "Okay, let's go to rest now." Then he pulled them towards the bed. Advertisement Chapter 277. Happy after pulling the two of them to the bed and sitting down, he said, "Okay, go to bed now, and I'll tell you what to do when I wake up." Then he pulled them into the bed. But Kurosaki shyly immediately said to Ichigo, "Brother Ichigo, we can agree to your request, but you have to agree to us one thing." Then he looked at Ichigo very seriously. Hearing this, Ichigo was stunned and forgot to pull them, and Kurosaki Yuzu looked at Kurosaki shyly curiously. And Ichigo immediately recovered and said, "I won't listen to your nonsense, go to bed immediately," and grabbed shyly towards Kurosaki. Kurosaki shyly immediately said to Ichigo, "Wait a minute, Ichigo-san, we're going to waste a lot of time now, even if Ichigo-san catches us to bed in the end, we won't sleep peacefully." Hearing this, Ichigo stopped grabbing Kurosaki shyly, but looked at him with interest. Seeing that Ichigo wasn't grabbing Kurosaki shyly towards them, he breathed a sigh of relief. And Ichigo said to Kurosaki shyly, "Then talk about it, let me listen." Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly was happy, and then looked at Ichigo and said, "I want Ichigo-san to sleep with us in bed." Hearing Kurosaki shyly's words, Kurosaki Yuzu was also immediately happy. Kurosaki Yuzu said to Ichigo, "That's right, as long as my brother sleeps with us, we will lie down and sleep on the bed." After saying that, he winked at Ichigo. Kurosaki shyly also liked Kurosaki Yuzu. Because of this cooperation, Kurosaki shyly is very happy. But Ichigo immediately refused and said, "Okay, I knew nothing would be good for the two of you." Hearing this, the two of them also felt that there should be no drama, but Ichigo continued, "But you two actually said that, promise you two for so long." Advertisement. Upon hearing Ichigo's words, the Kurosaki sisters jumped up with joy. Seeing the two of them happy, Ichigo is also very happy, probably this is family affection. But immediately Ichigo said to them both, "Okay, let's go to bed." After hearing Ichigo's words, the two of them immediately cooperated with Ichigo actively this time. The Kurosaki sisters said to Ichigo after lying down, "Ichigo-san, brother, come up." She pointed to the leaked position between the two of them. Seeing this scene, Ichigo shook his head helplessly, but he didn't refuse. He got up and took off his shoes. By the way, he tidied up their stray shoes and went up. After lying down between the two of them, Kurosaki shyly and Kurosaki Yuzu immediately pressed towards him and hugged Ichigo directly. After being hugged by the Kurosaki sisters and the others, Ichigo said to them, "You two are really like a child, drilling into my arms." After hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu immediately said to Ichigo, "It's nothing at all. It's just the love of my sister for my brother anyway." His eyes were a little different when he said love. And Kurosaki shyly immediately followed up, "Yuzu, you really said everything I wanted to say, I don't even know what to say anymore." Hearing Kurosaki shyly's words, Kurosaki Yuzu immediately retorted, "It's not yet shyly, I used to steal my lines, so of course I will speak first this time." Kurosaki shyly had nothing to say after hearing this, because what Kurosaki Yuzu said was true. So Kurosaki shyly said, "Okay, I'll let you say it this time." After speaking, she looked at her helplessly. Ask for flowers. Advertisement. Kurosaki Yuzu was also very happy when she saw it, because it was the first time she could say what Kurosaki shyly wanted to say. Ichigo was very happy watching Kurosaki shyly and Kurosaki Yuzu arguing. But he had already pinched the noses of the two of them and said, "Okay, stop talking, it's time to sleep." After hearing Ichigo's words, the two of them immediately quieted down, and put their heads on Ichigo's chest, one on the other. Ichigo also hugged the two of them in his arms and said, "Sleep well with you two today, so rest now." He kissed both of them on the forehead. After being kissed by Ichigo, the two of them immediately blushed, and then they dared not look at Ichigo and closed their eyes. When Ichigo saw the two of them close their eyes, he smiled and closed his own eyes. After the Kurosaki sisters closed their eyes for a few minutes, the two of them suddenly opened their eyes very tacitly, and then looked at each other. But after their eyes met for a while, they looked at Ichigo separately. Seeing that Ichigo was still sleeping with his eyes closed, the two of them leaned their bodies against Ichigo's face, then kissed Ichigo's face, and immediately retracted their heads. And Ichigo didn't sleep at all, because of course Ichigo felt that the two of them didn't sleep, so Ichigo wanted to see what the two of them wanted to do. But when he felt the two of them kiss him and then quickly retracted, Ichigo was speechless and wanted to laugh, but he held back. Because if Ichigo opened his eyes now, the situation might be even more embarrassing now. Chapter 278. Like who? Immediately after the Kurosaki sisters kissed Ichigo, they closed their eyes, afraid that Ichigo would suddenly wake up and look at them. After closing their eyes for a while, they believed that Ichigo had fallen asleep without moving. And Ichigo opened his eyes after the two of them closed his eyes, and also looked at the Kurosaki sisters who closed their eyes and were afraid that they would wake up and talk about them, which was funny. But after watching it for a while, Ichigo closed his eyes again because he felt that he too should take a break. Because the Kurosaki sisters fell asleep due to Ichigo's ability hypnosis, Ichigo felt that it was time for him to sleep too. As for the Kurosaki sisters, not long after they closed their eyes on 610, just as they were about to open their eyes, they felt a burst of drowsiness, and they couldn't resist, so they fell asleep. After Ichigo and the others fell asleep, everyone fell asleep too. After Kurosaki Ishin and Inonosaurus came to the room, Kurosaki Ishin said to the two of them, "It's time to rest now, so let's divide the room." Hearing Kurosaki Ishin's words, they both nodded. Kurosaki Ishin continued, "Just choose the two rooms on the first floor. Both rooms are very spacious and the beds are big enough for the two of you to sleep." Hearing this, they both nodded. Kurosaki Ishin continued, "Choose it now, the rooms on the left and right of the stairs." Hearing Kurosaki Ishin's words, the two of them immediately chose the room on the right, and Inyoryu said, "Let's choose the room on the right." Hearing their choice, Kurosaki Ishin also nodded and said, "Okay, then let's go in." Then he chose to lead the two of them to the room on the right. After entering, Kurosaki Ishin said, "There are bathrooms and toilets in the room, so it's very convenient, and you can watch TV to relieve boredom." He turned on the TV. Advertisement. They were both surprised to see what was on TV, because there is no such thing as TV in Soul Society. The two of them looked at what was on the TV was very novel. Seeing the two of them, Kurosaki Ishin also smiled, because he was very curious when he came into contact with this for the first time in this world, and even the egg was the same. After saying something to the two of them, Kurosaki Ishin went to his room. After returning to the room, Kurosaki Ishin rushed to lie down, and it didn't take long for a steady breathing sound. In the other room, after watching TV for a while, the dog dragon ape dragon was a little tired, so he also turned off the TV and fell asleep. As the dog dragon and ape dragon fell asleep, everyone in the house fell asleep, and the house felt very peaceful. Peaceful inside the Kurosaki family, chaos outside. Because Kanai Banzo and the assassins are frantically searching for Kasumida Road Rurichio. But they couldn't find a trace, so they were desperate and felt that this mission was going to fail. Because for the assassin, if the mission is not completed, then there is only death. When they were desperate and didn't know what to do, they were very clueless. At this time, Kanai Banzo said to them, "Okay, don't think about those useless things. This is just the first day of coming to this world. We still have 3 days, so there is no need for this." After hearing the words of Kanai Hanzo, the assassins have all recovered, so they are not so desperate anymore. Seeing them recovering, Narui Hanzo let out a sigh of relief, and after thinking of who they were going to face, he became desperate again, because he had no confidence in facing Ichigo and defeating Ichigo, so he knew that this time they were it's just to die for. Advertisement, but he couldn't say it, otherwise the assassins might be discouraged again. So Kanai Hanzo felt that it should be impossible to find them today, so he decided to come out and look for them at night. Find a place to rest now. After thinking about it, he said something to them and then walked towards them towards a place. And not long after they walked, he had short light yellow hair, army green eyes, and a little stubble on his chin. People wearing dark green shorts and light green trousers, who liked to wear green and white fisherman hats and clogs, came out from the corner. Seeing how they were walking, the man said to himself, they should be looking for the little girl from Sha Dalu's house. But he immediately said, "Forget it, let Mr. Kurosaki worry about this matter. What am I worried about?" After that, he left. And 1.4 This person is Urahara Kazuki. He came to check after feeling their Ryatsu. That's why Urahara Kazuki is here. Soon, time has passed. It was past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and Ichigo opened his eyes and looked at the Kurosaki sisters who were lying on his back, helpless. Because the two of them were actually drooling on their chests. This made Ichigo unconsciously think, are the two of them still children? Of course, this is just what Ichigo thought about it, because there would not be such a big child, of course not in this world. Ichigo looked at the two of them and thought, I don't know who they're like. Chapter 279. Wake up. While Ichigo was thinking about something, Kurosaki Masaki was already up. Of course, Kasumida Road Liuli Chio also got up. Because she had slept long enough, she woke up naturally. And Kurosaki Masaki said to Kasumidaji Rurichio, "Wake up, what do you want to eat?" After hearing Kurosaki Masaki's words, Kasumidaji Rurichio said, "No need, Mrs. Kurosaki." Hearing Kasumidaji Rurichio calling herself Kurosaki Masaki said, "You don't need to call me that, just call me Maki-san." After saying that, she looked at her expectantly. Kasumida Road Rurichio also nodded and called out after hearing it, "Sister Masaki." Hearing the words of Rurichio of Kasumidaji, Kurosaki Masaki was very happy to hug Kasumidaji Rurichio and said, "Rurichio, it's really good." Hearing this, Kasumidaji Rurichio was very at a loss, but she did not reject Kurosaki Masaki's embrace. Then Kurosaki Masaki said to Kasumidaji Rurichio, 26, what do you want to do now? Hearing this, Kasumidaji Rurichio immediately looked up at Kurosaki Masaki and said, "I want to watch that thing called TV," and pointed to the TV on the wall. Kurosaki Masaki nodded as well. After that, Kurosaki Masaki turned on the TV, and lay in bed with Kasumidaji Rurichio and watched TV. While watching TV, Kasumidaji Rurichio looked very happy. Advertisement and Ichigo and Kurosaki sisters, who were resting in the Kurosaki sisters' room, were still asleep on the bed. Of course the Kurosaki sisters were asleep, and Ichigo was looking at the ceiling wondering what to do. Before long, the Kurosaki sisters also got up. Looking at the saliva beside their faces, they were very embarrassed and shy, and didn't know what to do. And Ichigo looked at them speechlessly and said, "You two little lazy cats finally got up, let's take a look at your masterpiece. He pointed to the two pools of water on his chest. The Kurosaki sisters became even more shy when they heard Ichigo's words. Kurosaki Yuzu said, older brother bullies people. Kurosaki shyly followed suit and said, that's right, Ichigo-san actually bullies a child, even a little girl. Her tone is very misleading. It just makes others think that Ichigo did something to bully them. When Ichigo heard this, his face was black and he didn't know what to say. Seeing that Ichigo was a little dissatisfied, they knew that they had said something wrong, so the two of them immediately ran to the bathroom. Kurosaki Yuzu took out a towel and went to Ichigo's side to wipe the drool on Ichigo's chest. Then Kurosaki Yuzu was like a child who did something wrong, waiting for Ichigo's reprimand. And Ichigo said to her, okay, it's alright, it's all trivial anyway, so there's no need to feel guilty, smiling and stroking Kurosaki Yuzu's hair. Kurosaki Yuzu recovered after hearing Ichigo's words, and then felt the temperature of the palm above his head, making Kurosaki Yuzu's face red. Then Ichigo asked Kurosaki Yuzu, why did you just come out, shyly? When Kurosaki Yuzu was about to answer when he heard this, Kurosaki Shiarli's voice came out and said, I'm here. She came out of the bathroom after saying that. Advertisement. Then he continued, Ichigo-san, I just paid attention to Yuzu, not me, he pouted. When Ichigo saw it, he immediately got up and came to Kurosaki Shiarli's side, stroking her hair and saying, of course I won't forget you. Feeling the warmth on his head, Kurosaki Shiarli was also very happy, showing a happy expression. Immediately, Ichigo said to the two of them, okay, I'm going in now to wash up, you two make up the bed. After that, he went into the bathroom. After hearing Ichigo's words, the two of them were going to say something, but seeing that Ichigo was already in the bathroom, they both sighed and started to clean up. And Ichigo kept using Ryotsu to keep an eye on the Kurosaki sisters after entering the bathroom. Seeing that they were both quietly starting to make the bed, Ichigo stopped paying attention to them and started to wash up. The Kurosaki sisters turned their faces away immediately after being put down by Ichigo, and their faces were always red as they walked in front of Ichigo. Immediately after coming out of the room, Kurosaki sisters said to Ichigo, Ichigo-san, brother, put us down now. By the time Ichigo came out, the two of them had already packed their things. Seeing Ichigo coming out, the two of them immediately rushed towards Ichigo's arms, threw themselves into Ichigo's arms and said, brother Ichigo, brother. Then the two of them immediately walked downstairs first. Ichigo hugged them both and said, okay, we're going downstairs now. After hearing that, Ichigo didn't say anything and put them both down. Ichigo didn't say anything after seeing it, just shook his head and followed them downstairs. Hearing this, the two of them still didn't want to get out of Ichigo's arms, so Ichigo picked them up and walked downstairs. Chapter 280, Playing. After the Kurosaki sisters went downstairs and Ichigo was going down, the door to Ichigo's room was opened. When Ichigo looked back, it turned out that it was Yoruichi and Kono Hanaritsu who also came out. Yoruichi looked at Ichigo and said, hey, get up, I was going to call you. Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, I'm sorry then. Yoruichi immediately came to Ichigo's side and hugged Ichigo's arm and said, it's alright, it's a small matter anyway. Ichigo continued, would you like me to go back to my room and pretend to be sleeping for you to call? Yoruichi immediately said, no, but you can do it if you want. Hearing this, Ichigo walked back into the room. After seeing this, Yoruichi said to Eggflower Lie, Sister Lie, you go down first, Ichigo and I will wait for a while and then come down. After speaking, we entered the room. Egg Jawali saw that they both entered the room, so she had to go down. After Ichigo entered the room, he lay on the bed, waiting for Yoruichi to wake up him. Yoruichi, who was watching from the side, laughed when Ichigo pretended to sleep so seriously, but stopped immediately. Then he came to Ichigo's side and said to him, it's time to get up, Ichigo, and leaned his body towards Ichigo. And Ichigo opened his eyes immediately, and when Yoruichi reflexively wanted to straighten his body, Ichigo immediately took Yoruichi into his arms. Advertisement. Yoruichi didn't struggle when he saw this scene, he just nestled in Ichigo's arms. Yoruichi said to him, there are a lot of people at home recently, and there is no way to stay with you all the time. I really want to kill them all, but I don't know how to kill them, half joking to Ichigo say. When Ichigo heard it, he looked at her very seriously and said, are you going to kill them? Then he got up and went to kill them. Yoruichi immediately jumped on top of Ichigo, said to him, just kidding, and let Ichigo sit down. When I saw Ichigo's mouth slightly upturned, I knew I was cheated, so I beat Ichigo's chest and said, you know how to bully me. Yoruichi's current appearance as a little girl should make everyone who knows her not recognize her. Come out. Ichigo immediately said to Yoruichi, I'm sorry, it's just a joke. He hugged Yoruichi hard and comforted him. After hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi wasn't so noisy anymore. Instead, it was much quieter. While Ichigo and Yoruichi were fighting, the Kurosaki sisters and Uno Hanaru who went downstairs watched TV to relieve their boredom. After the Kurosaki sisters went downstairs first, they watched TV and waited for Ichigo to arrive. But after seeing that it was Egg Jawali who came downstairs, although the two of them were a little strange, they didn't think about it. Kurosaki shyly greeted her and said, Sister Lie, how are you sleeping? Egg Jawali replied, not bad, and came to sit next to the two of them. After waiting for a while, before seeing Ichigo come down, Kurosaki Yuzu asked, "Sister Lai, why didn't brother come down?" Hearing Kurosaki Yuzu's question, Kurosaki shyly also looked at the egg. Hearing this, Ichigo knew why the two of them had been absent-minded, and then said to them, "Ichigo is upstairs with Yoruichi now." Advertisement. After hearing this, the two of them said, "Oh," and watched TV. Since they both know that Ichigo is with Yoruichi now, neither of them want to be a light bulb either. Seeing that the Kurosaki sisters were very sensible and didn't go upstairs to disturb Ichigo and the others, Uenagi was also very relieved to see it. Afterwards, Walleye of Egg began to watch TV, and asked the two of them things from time to time. The Kurosaki sisters also had a good chat with Eggflower. At this time, Kurosaki Masaki and Kasumi Oji Rurichio also came out of the room. Seeing the people in the living room, Kurosaki Masaki said, "Wake up so early, Retsu." After Uenaru told Kurosaki Masaki what happened just now, Kurosaki Masaki laughed and said, "What a loving couple." After that, he chatted with Onohiro. Hearing that Liu Lichio on Husha Road was also very happy to come to Wangda's and sit down beside the two of them, and the three little loli watched TV together. And Kurosaki Masaki asked the Eggflower, where are Ichigo and Yoruichi?" No, it should be said that it is a big loli. After speaking, the two of them tidied up the bed and went out. After hearing that, Huali nodded and said, "Yeah, I got used to it when I was in Soul Society." Sister Kurosaki said to Kasumida Road Rurichio, "Rurichio, come and sit here, let's watch TV together." And after Ichigo and Yoruichi didn't fight much, Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Okay, it's time for us to go down now." After hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi also nodded and said, "Okay, let's go down." Chapter 281. Promise. After coming down, saw everyone watching TV. Of course, Kurosaki Ishin and Inanosaurus were still in the next room and didn't come here. Kurosaki Masaki saw the two of them say to them, "You are only coming down now," and gave them both a look. Seeing this scene, Ichigo and the two of them understood, which means to let them both restrain themselves. Seeing this scene, the two of them didn't say anything. Although they didn't do anything, the more they explained, the more troublesome they became, so they shut up. And Egg Jawali saw the two of them and said, "Come here, sit down." He pointed to the seat next to him. Ichigo and Yoruichi nodded and sat next to them. Kasumidaji Rurichio looked at Ichigo after Ichigo sat down. This made Ichigo look at her speechlessly and said, "Is there any problem?" And Yoruichi also looked at Kasumidaji Rurichio. And Kasumida Road Rurichio immediately said, "No, I just want to get to know you." After that, he continued to look at Ichigo. Seeing this like a monkey made Ichigo feel very uncomfortable and said, "Is there something I need to 610? Hearing this, Kasumidaiji Rurichio became excited, and even the Kurosaki sisters became happy. Seeing this scene, Ichigo knew that this must be the idea of the Kurosaki sisters, but had already agreed, so he had to bite the bullet and listen to their request. Kurosaki Masaki and the others snickered when they saw that Ichigo was a little shriveled. Advertisement. Because there are not many people who can deflate Ichigo, even Yoruichi has never let Ichigo deflate. The three little girls actually did it. This made Eggflower lie and the others amazed. And Ichigo saw Yoruichi and the others were laughing at him, which made him very helpless, but he didn't care, but waited for Kasumidaiji Rurichio and the others. The idea of Kasumidaiji Rurichio and Kurosaki sisters is to let Ichigo take them to the playground, and they also say that it is because Kasumidai Rurichio has not been there, CGBE. Hearing this, Ichigo had no choice but to agree. After Ichigo agreed, they jumped for joy. Ichigo, who saw this scene, also laughed, because it reminded Ichigo of taking care of the Kurosaki sisters when he was a child. But Ichigo just thought about it for a while, then immediately looked back at them and said, "If you want to go, then choose your clothes and don't drag it while you're going." Because when I took the Kurosaki sisters to the playground for the first time, they wasted an hour on choosing clothes, so Ichigo knew that it was a very troublesome thing for girls to go out. Even Yoruichi used to be like this, but with the system space, it's not like that anymore. Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaiji Rurichio nodded immediately and agreed. But Kasumida Road Rurichio said immediately, "I don't have any extra clothes." Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly immediately said, "It's alright, we have a lot of clothes, you can wear our clothes out." Kurosaki Yuzu also said, "Yes, we have a lot of clothes, so you can choose from Rurichio." After hearing what the Kurosaki sisters said, Kasumidaiji Rurichio said, "Okay, you both said so let's go and see if you are a concubine." 95. Advertisement. The Kurosaki sisters also nodded and dragged Kasumidaiji Rurichio to their room upstairs. Seeing that the three of them went upstairs, Ichigo said to Kurosaki Masaki, "Mom, you should go up and have a look. I think the three of them should have a long time to choose." After hearing Ichigo's words, Kurosaki Masaki thought that it should be the same, so she said to Ajino Hinari, "Would you like to go up and help me?" Before waiting for Ovo Hinari to reply, she said to herself, "Yes, yes." "Ah. Then let's go upstairs." After saying that, he pulled up the stunned egg Huali and went upstairs. Seeing what Kurosaki Masaki did, made both Ichigo and Yoruichi laugh. But Yoruichi immediately punched Ichigo's chest and said, "No, let's do it tomorrow." Although Yoruichi moved a little, he still stopped. After Kurosaki Masaki went upstairs, Ichigo took Yoruichi into his arms and said, "Would you like something exciting?" Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi was going to go together, but after hearing it, he decided not to go. Fortunately, Kurosaki Masaki has gone upstairs, otherwise I don't know what to do with Ichigo and Yoruichi who laugh at her. Ichigo nodded after hearing that. Then Ichigo continued, "I'm going to Soul Society tonight to get this done, Yoruichi, just stay home, I'll be back soon." And of course Ichigo couldn't help but started kissing Yoruichi. Seeing Yoruichi nodding, Ichigo kissed Yoruichi's forehead with pity and said, "As long as everything is settled, then we can be together forever, and we will never be separated for a moment," by Yoruichi. While the two of them were kissing unconditionally, the door of the other room was opened. Yoruichi was also very happy when he heard that and said to Ichigo, "I'll wait." He looked at Ichigo emotionally. Chapter 282. Indifferent. It turns out that Kurosaki Ishin and Inyoryu Manulong got up when Kurosaki Masaki and the others went upstairs. Then Kurosaki Ishin watched the TV and ignored them when he saw Inanosaurus, and he felt that the house was a little stuffy, so he came out of the room to get some air. And Ichigo and Yoruichi in the room, of course, had already sensed it when Kurosaki Ishin came out, so they parted reluctantly. Ichigo looked in the direction of Kurosaki Ishin and said, "It's not the right time to come out." He was still a little dissatisfied. Yoruichi immediately comforted Ichigo and said, "It's alright, anyway, we still have a lot of opportunities in the future, don't we? I'll make up for you at that time." After that, he kissed Ichigo's earlobe. Seeing Yoruichi teasing himself, Ichigo was about to tease him back, but stopped because Kurosaki Ishin was coming. But looking at Yoruichi was like looking at a sheep that was eaten by a big bad wolf. Yoruichi shivered when he saw Ichigo's eyes, but immediately smiled at Ichigo. Seeing this scene, Ichigo shook his head helplessly, put Yoruichi out of his arms, put his hand on her shoulder and watched TV quietly with her. Soon Kurosaki Ishin entered the room. Seeing that only Ichigo and Yoruichi were in the living room, he asked, "What about Mommy and Captain Eggflower?" And Yoruichi said, "It's upstairs." Kurosaki Ishin was puzzled and said to himself, "Still sleeping? Impossible." Then he looked at Ichigo and asked, "What are they doing?" And Ichigo looked at him and said, "They went up to help Yuzu Shirley and Ruri Chio choose clothes, because I'm going to take them to the playground at night," in a very helpless tone. Advertisement. When Kurosaki Ishin heard it, he said, "Didn't you go?" "I'm going again." Yoruichi went on to say, "It's not that Ruri Chio hasn't been to the world, and she's curious about the things of the world, so I took her there, and Yuzu Shirley came by the way." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin nodded. Then Kurosaki Ishin sat next to Ichigo, picked up the newspaper and read it. And Ichigo and Yoruichi are secretly talking love words, and Yoruichi also laughs from time to time. As for Kurosaki Masaki and the others upstairs, they took out a lot of clothes for Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaji Ruri Chio, and let them try on them one by one. Kurosaki sisters are very refusal, especially Kurosaki Shirley. Kasumidaji Ruri Chio was originally very interested, but after trying on dozens of pieces, she also became bored. However, Kurosaki Masaki and Uno Hinari also showed great interest, and they also let the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaji Ruri Chio try on them one by one. And they were going to refuse, but after seeing the irresistible appearance of Kurosaki Masaki and Uno Hanaritsu, they had to try it on obediently. Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaji Ruri Chio are not interested now, but they will fall in love with this thing when they grow up. When the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaji Ruri Chio were caught in the hot water, look at Ichigo and their relaxed appearance in the living room to know the difference. And downstairs, Ichigo suddenly thought about Kurosaki Ishin and asked, "Dad, I will go to Soul Society tonight to get things done with Ruri Chio. This time I won't let Yoruichi follow me, I will go by myself." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin was also surprised and asked, "Why don't you bring Yoruichi this time?" At this time, Yoruichi also looked at Ichigo tightly. Advertisement. Ask for flowers. And Ichigo was still the same face of 10,000 years, looked at him and said, "It's just this time that I can solve it quickly, so it's useless for Yoruichi to follow. The most important thing is that Aizen has he's coming to this world. I don't want him to be in chaos in this world." After saying that, he looked directly at Kurosaki Ishin. Kurosaki Ishin nodded after hearing Ichigo's words. After speaking, Yoruichi leaned on Ichigo's shoulder and said to Ichigo, "This is the first time we have separated, but come back soon, otherwise I don't know what I will do." Yoruichi felt relieved after hearing that, but he was still a little reluctant. The clothes they are wearing now are uniformly kimonos, and Ichigo was not surprised when he saw this scene, so he took a look at them and took it back. I don't know why, but Yoruichi is so attached to Ichigo now that he doesn't want to be separated for a moment. And the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaji Ruri Chio also came down. And the Kurosaki sisters are wearing kimonos, but they have seen the way they wear kimonos many times, so they are not too surprised. Kasumidaji Ruri Chio was very happy after hearing this, but was a little dissatisfied when Ichigo didn't respond at all. Hearing this, Ichigo scratched Yoruichi's nose and said, "I see, I'll be back in an hour." After saying that, he tightened his grip and let Yoruichi get closer to him. Kurosaki Masaki and the others came down after what they both said was almost the same. Yoruichi praised Kasumidaiji Ruichio wearing a kimono and said, Ruichio looks beautiful in a kimono. 35. Chapter 283. Choose a kimono. Seeing that they were all wearing kimonos, Ichigo said to them, since you are wearing kimonos, then I have to go and wear kimonos, and disappeared upstairs. No one was surprised to see Ichigo disappear, and of course Kasumidaiji Ruichio was not surprised either. Because she is a noble of the Soul Society, there are many Shinigami in her family who are loyal to her family. So this is nothing to her, just a little curious. Then Yoruichi said to them, do you want me to accompany you at night? He looked at them with glowing eyes. When the Kurosaki sisters were about to refuse, Kasumidaiji Ruichio immediately said, of course, 610. Is fine, Yoruichi sister. After seeing Kasumidaiji Ruichio finish saying that Kurosaki sisters want to stop it, it is too late. So they stood there speechless. Yoruichi was also very happy after hearing their agreement, so he used Shunpo to come to Ichigo right away. Of course, when Yoruichi left, he also said to Eggflower Lie, Sister Lie, come and change your clothes too. Let's go and play together in a while. Shunpo left before Yoruichi promised Yoruichi. And the Eggflower is very helpless looking at Kasumida Road Ruichio and Kurosaki sisters. Those who were watched by Egg Jawali knew it when they saw her eyes, so they had no choice but to nod in agreement. Anyway, if you go with one more person, you will also go, and if you go with two more people, you will go too, right? Seeing that all three of them nodded and agreed, Egg Jawali was also very happy, so she walked upstairs. Seeing that originally 4 people went to play, but now it has become 6 people, they are also very helpless. Advertisement. While Ichigo was changing clothes, Yoruichi suddenly came in, which surprised Ichigo. But because of their relationship, I was just surprised. Ichigo asked, Yoruichi, what's wrong with you? After Yoruichi told Ichigo what happened just now, Ichigo smiled and said, okay, I agreed, so let's go together, but let's change clothes now. Hearing this, Yoruichi also nodded and immediately began to try on his own clothes. At this time, Ichigo put on his clothes. It was a dark blue kimono. Ichigo looked very handsome and uninhibited after wearing it. Although Yoruichi has seen Ichigo wearing it before, but now he is still a little nympho and blushing after seeing it. When Ichigo saw that Yoruichi was a little shy, he walked up to her and laughed and said, shy? He raised Yoruichi's chin. Yoruichi's chin was lifted and looking into Ichigo's eyes, Yoruichi couldn't control it. Ichigo and Yoruichi just stared at each other, and their lips were getting closer and closer, and the door of the room was knocked when they were about to meet. And said aloud, Ichigo, Yoruichi, have you finished changing? The person who spoke was Uno Hinari, who had just arrived at the door of the room. Hearing that the person who was coming was Kaori, they immediately moved away from each other, and Ichigo said, Sister Lie, I'm ready and I'll come out now. After saying that, he stroked Yoruichi's head and walked towards the door. And Yoruichi was also very happy after being touched by Ichigo. After Ichigo opened the door of the room, he saw Ajino Hinari standing in front of the door. Ichigo immediately said, Sister Lie, let's go in, I'll wait for you below. After speaking, he left the room and walked downstairs. Advertisement and the Eggflower Lie saw Ichigo's clothes and became obsessed. But after seeing Ichigo walking downstairs, Egg no Hana Lie came back to his senses and walked in while looking into the room. Seeing the dark purple kimono on Yoruichi's body, I was surprised. Because her kimono and Ichigo's kimono are exactly a pair. When Yoruichi saw Eggflower Lie coming in, he said to her, Sister Lie, look at the clothes in the closet first. Let's see if there is anything you like. After that, let her see. But Eggflower Lie immediately said, no need, I'll go to the street and buy one. Hearing Uno Hinaru's words, Yoruichi immediately said, don't waste that money, there are a lot of kimonos here. Then he pulled Uno Hana Lie to the closet. Before coming to the closet, Yoruichi opened the closet, then looked at Uno Hana and said, okay, now you can choose. After saying that, Yoruichi released Uno Hana's hand and sorted out the kimono on his body. And Egg Jawali stopped talking after seeing the dozens of kimonos in the wardrobe, and then quietly looked at the kimonos. Yoruichi saw that the eyes of Uziwali 1.4 were all on the kimono, and she knew that her method was successful. Then Yoruichi said, Sister Lie, don't just watch it, you can also try it on. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Eggflower Lie immediately returned to his senses and said, Yoruichi, is it really okay for me to wear one? And Yoruichi said indifferently, it's okay, I have so many kimonos anyway. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Yoruichi also thought of how Ichigo was doting on Yoruichi and stopped talking. Yoruichi saw that Ovo Hanaritsu was not speaking, and immediately urged, now choose any one and try it on. Then he pushed Ovo Hanaritsu. Chapter 284. Kimono. 1. And when Yoruichi heard Yoruichi's words, Yoruichi knew her determination. So Kaoru Yoruichi didn't refuse, so he chose a sakura-colored kimono in Yoruichi's closet, picked it up, and walked towards the bed to change. Yoruichi also laughed when he saw that the Eggflower was starting to change. Yoruichi glanced at her after Uno Hana Lie changed her clothes and was amazed. Because now Uno Hinaru puts on a kimono and feels very beautiful like a traditional Japanese Yamato Nadeshiko. Yoruichi, who saw this scene, was also jealous, but he smiled when he thought about his current situation. Egg no Hana Lee said to Yoruichi, "How do you look, 55?" Yoruichi immediately came back to his senses and said, "I think it's very good. It's very beautiful." Then he came to Uno Hanaru and stood with her. Then he looked into the mirror and said, "Is it like a pair of sisters looking at 26? After hearing the words, Egg Jawali nodded and said, "That's right, it's like a pair of sisters." At this time, Egg Nohaka and Yoruichi, one was wearing a sakura kimono, the other was wearing a dark purple kimono, the other was gentle and virtuous, and the other was charming. Then Yoruichi said to Eggflower Lai, "Sister Lai, I think you can wear this, it suits your temperament very well, so I will give you this kimono, flowery hands." After hearing this, Egg no Will Lai immediately refused and said, "No need, Yoruichi, I'm a little embarrassed, 35. Hearing the words of the Eggflower, Yoruichi immediately said, "What's the embarrassment, you two are sisters. Isn't it normal for sisters to send some things? The flower of the egg is strong." Advertisement. Hearing this, Egg Jawali nodded and said, "Although that is the case, but..." Before he finished speaking, Yoruichi continued, "If you are a sister, there is no but, or you will not give me face." Hearing that, Egg Jawali had no choice but to accept it. Seeing that no Hana was accepted, Yoruichi also laughed happily, and hugged U's arm and said, "This is a good sister." After saying that, he smiled at U's. Seeing Yoruichi's smile, Uno Hanaru also laughed happily. Then Yoruichi continued, "Now let's go downstairs and show them what we are wearing now." After saying that, he took the egg and walked out of the room. Seeing Yoruichi pulling her to the outside, Uziwali smiled helplessly and said, "Okay, I see, slow down." Yoruichi immediately said, "Got it." Hearing the words of the egg, but the movement of the feet did not slow down at all. Seeing this scene, Walleye didn't stop her anymore. And when Ichigo came out of the room, he went down first. When the people below saw Ichigo wearing a kimono, they were all stunned, and even Kasumidaiji Rurichio looked at Ichigo and was stunned. At this time, Kurosaki Ishin said, "Ichigo, you are wearing a kimono more and more tasteful now." After hearing this, Ichigo immediately said, "What does it smell like wearing a kimono, Dad? Stop joking with me." He shook his head. After hearing Ichigo's words, they immediately recovered and then blushed collectively. Advertisement. Kurosaki Masaki was blaming herself for seeing her own son in a daze, so she looked a little embarrassed. The Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaiji Rurichio were shy and happy. Kurosaki Masaki immediately said, "This suit is very good, Ichigo," to divert his embarrassment with this remark. Hearing Kurosaki Masaki's words, Ichigo was very happy and said, "Mom, what you said made me a little shy." After that, he smiled politely. Hearing Ichigo's words, Kurosaki Masaki smiled back politely. Then Ichigo looked at Kasumida Road Rurichio and said, "Rurichio, why are you blushing there?" And Shadaluliuli Chio 613 immediately said, "What's your business?" After speaking, he lowered his head again. Seeing Kasumida Road Rurichio yelling suddenly, someone in Ichigo didn't understand what was wrong, and was very puzzled. But of course Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki sisters knew. Kurosaki Masaki immediately changed the subject and said, "What about Ichigo, Yoruichi and Retsu?" Hearing this, Ichigo was immediately changed by Kurosaki Masaki and replied, "They're changing clothes, so I came out." Then he came to the sofa and sat down. Seeing that Ichigo was transferred, Kurosaki Masaki also gave a sigh of relief. "Oh, that's how it is." Kurosaki Masaki nodded in agreement. Then she saw that Ichigo looked at the TV, and she didn't say anything. Of course, Ichigo also knew why Kurosaki Masaki asked, but he didn't want Kasumidaiji Rurichio to be embarrassed, so he went on with Kurosaki Masaki's meaning. Seeing that Ichigo didn't ask any more questions, Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaiji Rurichio both breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 285. Kimono, Part 2. Then the three of them watched TV next to Ichigo. When Ichigo saw them sitting next to him, he smiled and didn't care. When Kurosaki Masaki saw the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaiji Rurichio sitting next to Ichigo, she smiled, but immediately disappeared. Of course, Kurosaki Ishin next to him still saw it. When Kurosaki Masaki turned his head to say something to Kurosaki Ishin, seeing him looking at him with a smile, Kurosaki Masaki said angrily, "What are you looking at? I'm not going to prepare dinner for the evening," to hit him. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Ishin ran into the kitchen immediately. Seeing this scene, the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaiji Rurichio and the others laughed happily. Even Ichigo raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Of course it's not easy to notice. Of course Kurosaki Masaki saw it, but she thought it was an illusion. Because she is really, her child is a genius, like an adult, since childhood, so Kurosaki Masaki is very reassured. But she also felt very dissatisfied, because she also hoped that she could act like a child to herself once in the future. But when Ichigo grew up, she felt that she had no chance, and when Ichigo asked Kurosaki Masaki his first request when he was in high school, she cried with joy. Of course Kurosaki Ishin, Kurosaki sisters and Yoruichi thought that Ichigo made Kurosaki Masaki cry after seeing Kurosaki Masaki cry. Advertisement. But after understanding the reason, Kurosaki Ishin also hugged Kurosaki Masaki and cried, "Ichigo, it's so good to finally act like a spoiled child to my parents." And Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki sisters nodded. Ichigo, who saw this scene at the time, was very speechless. Is he acting like a spoiled child? Isn't it just a request? But he didn't think much about it, just seeing them making a fuss there, Ichigo had to drag Yoruichi back to the room. In the end, Kurosaki Masaki also agreed to Ichigo's request and went abroad together. That's right, at that time Ichigo asked Kurosaki Masaki to take the Kurosaki family and Yoruichi on a trip abroad. Because in the past his dream was to travel abroad, although he has now come to a place that can be said to be abroad, he still hopes to go. Eventually the family returned from a vacation in the United States before Ichigo entered high school. After Ichigo went to the United States and came back, he was speechless. Because he finally knows why there are no Haku and Shinigami elsewhere, only in Karakura Ting. It is because of the gap between people's spiritual power and the problem of local aura. Of course, they didn't do much shopping, they just came back after a week of shopping abroad. Thinking back on these things, Kurosaki Masaki was also stunned. Seeing where Kurosaki Masaki was thinking, Ichigo didn't wake her up either, let her get back to herself. Advertisement, and at this time Yoruichi and Egg no Hana Lie also came down. Yoruichi said, "Did we really want to be sisters after we wore kimonos?" Hearing Yoruichi's words, everyone turned to look at them. Even Kurosaki Masaki looked at them. There was a flash of surprise in Ichigo's eyes when he saw their clothes, but it disappeared immediately. But Yoruichi still saw this moment. At this time, the egg flower Lie said, "Okay, Yoruichi, don't make trouble," then he pulled her down the stairs. Seeing this scene, Shadalu Liuli Chio also proudly said, 39, but it can be seen that she is very happy. Hearing Kasumidaji Ruri Chio's words, Yoruichi and Uno Hanari also nodded and agreed to her. When Ichigo saw Yoruichi like this, he shook his head speechlessly, got up and came to Yoruichi's side, picked her up in a princess hug and walked down. Hearing the Kurosaki sisters' words, Yoruichi and Uno Hanaritsu were also very happy, and thanked them by touching their heads. And when Wallai saw that Ichigo was coming, he immediately got down, came to the side of the sofa and sat down. But Yoruichi still didn't want to come down, and just stood there, not even the egg flower was able to pull firm. And Shadalu Liuli Chio also said at this time, "Indeed, if you two are walking outside dressed like this, others will definitely think you two are sisters." After Ichigo carried Yoruichi to the sofa, the Kurosaki sisters immediately said, "Wang de Hao, Sister Yoruichi and Sister Lai are really like a pair of sisters." After saying that, they came to the two of them happily. Raise one arm. Seeing this scene, Egg Jawali was very helpless and looked at Ichigo. Chapter 286. Ready. Kurosaki Masaki also praised the two of them at this time, saying, "You two will go outside wearing this dress, and there will definitely be a lot of people coming to ask for your phone." Hearing Kurosaki Masaki's joke, the two of them knew it was the case, so they didn't care about it. Yoruichi said, "It's okay, Ichigo is our bodyguard anyway, isn't it?" Hearing Yoruichi's words, everyone's eyes flashed with joy. Even Kasumida Road Ruri Chio was very happy. Seeing their happy expressions, Ichigo said speechlessly, "Why are you so happy?" Hearing this, Egg Jawali immediately replied, "It's alright, I just feel like I want to tease you." Hearing this, Ichigo shook his head helplessly, and this time Kurosaki Ishin came out of the kitchen, looked at Ichigo, Yoruichi and the others who were leaving and said, "When are you leaving? Do you want me to take you off?" Of course Kurosaki Ishin didn't notice Yoruichi and Uno Hanaritsu. At this time, Yoruichi suddenly pulled the egg 613 huli to get up, and then turned to look at Kurosaki Ishin. Kurosaki Ishin was stunned when he saw the way they both looked. Seeing this scene, Yoruichi said happily, "Dad, how are we now?" And the egg no Hana Lie who was beside her reluctantly put her hand on her forehead. When Kurosaki Ishin heard Yoruichi's words, he woke up and said, "You are so beautiful now." The two of them were very happy to hear this, and said in unison, "Thank you." After seeing this scene, Kurosaki Ishin immediately added, "You two are like a pair of sisters now." Hearing this, the two of them were even more happy, and the smile on their faces did not diminish at all. Advertisement, but they both said in unison, "Thank you." Kurosaki Ishin waved his hands after seeing who it was, and said, "It's alright, this is the truth." Hearing this, they both nodded and sat down. Seeing the two of them sit down, Kurosaki Ishin let out a sigh of relief, because he didn't know what to say anymore. Seeing this, Kurosaki Masaki immediately said, "Honey, what are we going to eat tonight?" Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin immediately said, "Let's have curry tonight, can we?" 995. After hearing that, Kurosaki Mizaki also felt that he hadn't eaten curry for some days, so he nodded and said, "I haven't eaten it for some days, and I just miss the taste." Hearing Kurosaki Ishin talking about eating curry, the Kurosaki sisters were a little confused because they both wanted to eat curry too. So Kurosaki shyly said, "Dad and Mama are so cunning, can't Yuzu and I eat curry on this day?" Kurosaki Yuzu also went on to say, "That's right, I know shyly we both like curry the most, and we still eat it when we go out to eat today." He looked at Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki Ishin very resentfully. Kurosaki Masaki, who saw this scene, was very happy and said, "Then don't go if you want to eat, anyway, I didn't want to take you there in the future." 35. Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters were very angry and looked at Kurosaki Masaki with dissatisfaction. And Kurosaki Masaki smiled at them both, but immediately Kurosaki shyly said, "I don't eat it, anyway, the curry made by Dad is not so good. CGBE. We will ask Ichigo brother to make it for us tomorrow, and it is not as much as you." Hearing Kurosaki shyly, Kurosaki Yuzu was also very happy, because she also knows that at home, Ichigo's cooking skills are undoubtedly the best, so Kurosaki Yuzu also said, "That's right, the food that Dad cooks is not so delicious anyway." Advertisement. Kurosaki Ishin was heartbroken when he heard his two daughters say this to him. Although what they say is true, sometimes the truth is cruel. So Kurosaki Ishin secretly decided to let Ichigo teach him how to cook tomorrow. And Kurosaki Masaki immediately said, although his cooking is really bad, but it's still good. Seeing Kurosaki Ishin's injured appearance, Kurosaki Masaki wanted him to regain his confidence. Hearing what his wife said about him, Kurosaki Ishin was very happy, and his eyes were full of happy tears. Kurosaki Masaki, who saw this scene, immediately said to him, "Okay, let's take a look at the curry first." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin ran into the kitchen immediately because he was determined to make a curry that was better than before. Seeing Kurosaki Ishin entering the kitchen, Kurosaki Masaki also let out a sigh of relief. Then she looked at Ichigo and they said, "Are you going now?" Hearing this, everyone turned to Ichigo, and Ichigo said, "Wait a while, it's early anyway," and saw the clock hanging on the wall. Its pointer points to 5 o'clock. After seeing the clock, Kurosaki Masaki nodded, and she also went into the kitchen to help Kurosaki Ishin. Seeing that there were only people in the living room who were going to the playground at night, Ichigo said, "Everything at night must be obeyed by me, especially you, Ruichio," and then looked at Kasumi Road Ruichio. She pointed to herself and said, "What's wrong with me?" Shadalu Liuli Chio said angrily. And Ichigo immediately said, "I don't want you to get lost or wander around in the playground." Hearing this, they all nodded, and even Kasumida Road Liuli Chio promised. And Shadalu Liuli Chio said, "I won't do things like a child." Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and nodded, but I don't know if Ichigo believed it. Chapter 287. Lottery. While staying at home, the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaji Ruichio have been watching Ichigo from time to time. And his face is still red from time to time, which makes Ichigo very helpless. When Yoruichi and Uno Hanaru saw this scene, they looked at Ichigo and laughed lightly from time to time. Hearing their laughter, Ichigo wanted to teach them a lesson, but he thought that his relationship with Uno Hanaru couldn't be that close, so he decided to punish Yoruichi. He took Yoruichi directly into his arms, and said to her, "Do you want me to teach you a lesson?" He smiled at Yoruichi as he spoke. Seeing Ichigo's smile, Yoruichi shrank in Ichigo's arms in fear, and seeing this scene, Ichigo also smiled, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. But immediately continued to say to Yoruichi, "Okay, don't think that I won't punish you." Hearing this, Yoruichi immediately came out of Ichigo's arms and gave Ichigo a humph. Seeing this scene, Ichigo couldn't bear it anymore, and immediately wanted to spank Yoruichi's ***, but when he heard the voice in his head, Ichigo put her down and said, "I won't forgive her if I do this again." Scratch Yoruichi's nose. Of course, the interaction between Ichigo and Yoruichi, everyone is watching. Especially Kurosaki sisters and Kasumi Oji Ruichio. They kept staring at Yoruichi and Ichigo, making Ichigo uncomfortable for both of them. But Ichigo didn't take it to heart, he just thought it was just curiosity. But Yoruichi didn't think so, on the contrary, she felt that they must have a great impression of Ichigo, otherwise they would not have been paying attention to him like this. Of course, this is just Yoruichi's guess, so she didn't say it explicitly, for fear of embarrassing everyone. Advertisement. After Yoruichi came out of Ichigo's arms, she came to the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaiji Ruichio and they sat together and talked to them. Even Egg Jawali couldn't help coming to join them after seeing this scene, and they chatted together. The remaining Ichigo watched TV there alone. Even so, Ichigo is somewhat happy now. Of course he didn't show it on his face, but he was very excited now. Because Yoruichi promised what he always wanted to do with Yoruichi, Ichigo was happy. On the other side, Yoruichi, although chatting with Uno Hanari and the others, is still a little annoyed and regretful. "I regret that I actually agreed to such a shameful request from Ichigo. Did I really have a short circuit in my head just now?" Of course Yoruichi didn't know what Ichigo was thinking, so he watched TV happily. And after 10 or 20 minutes, Ichigo suddenly said to everyone, "Okay, now it's time for us to go out and get ready." Hearing Ichigo's words, everyone went to prepare. And Ichigo came to the kitchen and saw Kurosaki Ishin and Kurosaki Masaki who were still busy in the kitchen. He said, "Mom and Dad, we're leaving." Hearing Ichigo's words, the two of them immediately looked towards the door of the kitchen, and seeing Ichigo speaking, Kurosaki Masaki immediately said, "Let's go now. Let's give you a ride." Katakana middle. Katakana middle. Seeking flowers. Katakana middle. Katakana middle. Kurosaki Ishin also said, "Yeah, let me give you a ride." Advertisement. Hearing the two of them, Ichigo was very happy, but he still refused to say, "No need." let's use Shunpo 3 times to go somewhere. It's faster this way. After hearing Ichigo's words, they also stopped talking. Then Kurosaki Masaki said, then let's go early and come back early. Then he came to Ichigo's side and sorted out Ichigo's kimono. Kurosaki Ishin also said to Ichigo, do you want me to save you some curry? After hearing this, Ichigo immediately said, don't be so troublesome, they won't eat too much at night anyway. Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin also nodded, because it was decided by lottery. Then they started discussing who was going to bring whom. In the end, it was decided that Yoruichi would bring Kurosaki Yuzu, Yono Hanaru would bring Kurosaki Shirley, and Ichigo would bring Kasumi Oji Rurichio. And Ichigo looked at them and said, okay, let's go now. Ichigo said, we just used Shunpo, and it's enough to bring one per person. Hearing this, Kaoru and Yoruichi nodded. Then Ichigo came out of the kitchen and saw that in the living room, everyone was standing and waiting for Ichigo. At this time, Kaoru Yoruichi asked, then how are we going to go? Hearing her question, Yoruichi also looked at Ichigo. After the decision was made, the Kurosaki sisters disagreed, but finally agreed. Chapter 288. Departure. When Kasumi Daiji Rurichio saw that she was walking with Ichigo, she said, it's you, so let's go. After speaking, he extended his hand to Ichigo. Ichigo was very helpless when he saw this scene, but he also took the hand of Kasumi Dai Rurichio and said, okay, let's go out and let me carry you back. After that, he took Kasudaro Rurichio and walked outside together. Seeing that Kasumi Daiji Rurichio was going to walk with Ichigo, the Kurosaki sisters were very envious and looked at them. But when they heard no Hanaru and Yoruichi's words, they both woke up immediately. Do you two despise us, June 13th, so much? Then he looked at them with dangerous eyes. And after the two of them saw Uziwali and Yoruichi, they both immediately opened Shikai and said, of course not, it's still the best sister Lai and Yoruichi, and looked at them very flatteringly. But neither of them eat this said at all, and Yoruichi said, I don't look like it, 99. Hearing this, Egjawali also looked at the two of them, and there were black chi behind them. Seeing this, how could the two of them not know? If they didn't say it properly, then Egjawali might be able to hang and beat the two of them. Then, under Kurosaki Shiarli's rhetoric, the two of them also let go of the Kurosaki sisters. Feeling that no Hanari and Yoruichi were no longer angry, they both let out a sigh of relief. Then, when no Hanari and Yoruichi walked outside, the two of them immediately followed. Advertisement. After Yoruichi and Kono Hanaritsu came out, Ichigo said, okay, now we're going. Just as he was about to leave, the voice of the dog dragon suddenly sounded. Turning around, it turned out that it was Kanasurosaurus and the others who came out of the house. When they were about to help out in this house, they saw Ichigo and they made a noise. Then, after hearing the words of the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaji Rurichio, they both understood. And the two of them did not stop, and said, Kurosaki-sama, I'm really bothering you. Rurichio-sama has never opened his heart to play since he was a child, but we saw that Rurichio-sama played here these 2 days with sincerity, so we thank you very much. He bowed to Ichigo. Seeing the dog dragon and monkey dragon bowing to him, Ichigo said directly, it's alright, it's just another sister anyway. I am very happy to hear this, because if Ichigo is regarded as a younger sister, then in Soul Society in the present world, you can walk sideways. So of course they hope that they can always think that way in the future. And Kasumida Road Rurichio shyly said to Ichigo, I don't want to be your sister, if you want to be, you have to be. She was speechless at this point. Seeing that Rurichio on Kasumida Road didn't finish her sentence, Ichigo asked, what do you want to be? Shadalu Liulichio was speechless, looking down at her shoes. Of course all the women present guessed something. The Kurosaki sisters also looked at Kasumidaiji Rurichio with some hostility, and became a little wary. But Kasumidaiji Rurichio didn't take it to heart at all, because she felt that the friendship would not change because of this, let alone the friendship between her and the Kurosaki sisters. Advertisement. Seeing that Kasumida Road Rurichio didn't speak, Ichigo didn't continue to ask her, and said to her, okay, now come on my back. After saying that, he lowered his body. And when Kasumidaiji Liulichio saw it, a flash of joy flashed in his eyes, and he climbed directly onto Ichigo's body and put his body on Ichigo's back. Ichigo felt the sensation from his back, and he said directly, you are so light. Hearing Ichigo's words, Kasumidaiji Rurichio said happily, of course, my concubine is a princess. After speaking, she revealed a very happy look. Seeing this, the corners of Ichigo's mouth twitched slightly and said, then, your highness, let's go. After speaking, Ichigo and Kasumida Road Rurichio disappeared. Seeing Ichigo and the others set off, Yoruichi and Uno Hanaru also picked up the Kurosaki sisters and left. During the walk, Kasumida Road Rurichio looked at the flashing street and pedestrians and laughed happily. Hearing the laughter of Rurichio on Kasumidaji, Ichigo was also very happy. Because Ichigo 1.4 doesn't hate this girl so much anymore, I just want to make fun of her. Of course, Yoruichi and Yoruichi followed behind Ichigo, and the Kurosaki sisters saw these things, and the two of them also looked at it with novelty. After seeing almost, Ichigo and the others came to the playground, and Ichigo and the others also appeared at the entrance of the playground. Seeing the playground, Kasumidaji Rurichio was surprised because it was the first time she came to such a place. Even Egg Jawali's eyes flashed a ray of light, but it disappeared immediately. Chapter 289, Playground 1. Ichigo and the others were also very happy to see Kasumida Road Rurichio and Uziwali looking at it with some novelty. Then Ichigo said, "I'll go buy a ticket and come back." Then he went to the ticket office to buy a ticket. Yoruichi and the others came to the signs that introduced playground facilities and looked at the facilities introduced. Kasumi Road Rurichio was very happy after seeing the roller coaster and said, "My concubine wants to play this." Then he looked at Yoruichi with anticipation. Of course Yoruichi nodded in agreement. When Kurosaki Shirley saw Kasumidaji Rurichio chose this, he was very happy and said, "This game is the most fun and exciting. If you don't play this game, you will regret it." Kurosaki Yuzu said, "That's a good thrilling game." Kasumi Road Rurichio asked, "We don't need to tell me, Ichigo?" Kurosaki Shirley immediately said, "No need, brother Ichigo will buy the full ticket." After speaking, he began to explain the effect of the full ticket to Kasumidaji Rurichio at 26. Because Ichigo bought the tickets for the facilities, it was up to them to decide whether to play or not. And Egg Jawali looked at the Ferris wheel and said, "I want to feel this." Yoruichi said immediately after seeing it, "This is a very beautiful and romantic game. It's very suitable for Sister Lai." Hearing Yoruichi's words, Yoruichi also smiled happily at Yoruichi. While they were chatting, Ichigo had already bought a ticket and returned. Seeing that they were chatting very hotly, Ichigo smiled and came over to them. They were very happy to see Ichigo back. Then Ichigo said, "Okay, let's go in now." As he spoke, he went inside. Advertisement. Of course Yoruichi and the others followed behind Ichigo. When I went in, Ichigo showed the tickets to the people at the amusement park, let Ichigo them in, and gave Ichigo them a souvenir. Souvenirs are the coins of a playground. Seeing the coin, Kurosaki shyly said, "I didn't expect to give such a souvenir this time." Hearing Kurosaki Shiarly's words, Kasumidaji Rurichio said, "So what souvenirs did you give before?" Kurosaki Yuzu immediately said, "It's just some playground greeting cards or toys." Hearing this, Kasumida Road Rurichio also nodded. After entering, Kasumida Road Rurichio saw the marshmallow and asked, "What is this?" Kurosaki Yuzu said, "This is marshmallow, it's sweet and delicious." Hearing Kurosaki Yuzu's words, Kasumidaji Rurichio wanted to eat and looked at Ichigo brightly. Ichigo reluctantly came to the marshmallow seller and said, "Take 5 marshmallows," and then gave him the money. And he started doing it after he took Ichigo's money. Everyone was amazed when they saw the marshmallows being made little by little. Of course, the people who were amazed were Sha Daluliulichio and Egg Jawali. After the first one was made, I gave it to Sha Daluliulichio and let her taste it. And Sha Daluliulichio tasted it and said, "This is delicious, it's just a little sticky." Hearing Kasumidaji Rurichio's words, Kurosaki shyly immediately said, "Of course the marshmallow will stick to your face." Advertisement. Hearing this, Yoruichi also nodded and said, "This is also an interesting place for marshmallows." Said, "The second one has been done." Gave this to Egg Jawali and let her taste it. Egg Jawali tasted it very elegantly and said, "This is very good." He licked it again. After everyone came out, they started eating and walking. After pulling to the first amusement facility, Ichigo said, "Want to play?" This recreational facility is darts. After seeing this, Kasumida Road Rurichio said excitedly, I want to play," and finished the marshmallow in 3 or 2 times, and looked at Ichigo expectantly. And Ichigo saw the marshmallow residue on Kasuda Road Rurichio's mouth, and said, "Don't eat so fast. Look, it's all around your mouth," and wiped Kasumidai Rurichio. Kasumidaji Rurichio looked at Ichigo very blushing. This time Kurosaki shyly also hit 2 bullseyes, and the others hit the target. Out of 7 darts, only 1 hit the target, and he was still about to miss the target. This made Sha Daluliulichio very shy. Ichigo and the others didn't say anything after seeing it. After hearing Kurosaki Shiarly's words, Kasumidaji Rurichio felt relieved. She said, "Shyly, give me a demonstration with a shot." Kurosaki shyly nodded after hearing Kasumidaji Rurichio's words. Then he picked up 5 darts to demonstrate. Kurosaki shyly reassured, "It's okay, it's the first time anyway." Hearing Ichigo's words, Kasumidaji Rurichio nodded firmly and said, "I can definitely do it." After that, he took a dart from Ichigo's hand and started shooting. This result also made Kurosaki shyly somewhat satisfied. After Ichigo finished wiping, Ichigo said, "Go play." After saying 613, he pulled Kasumida Road Rurichio to the side, picked up a few darts and said, "There are prizes for hitting red hearts 5 times, so work hard." 5. Chapter 290. Playground 2. Seeing that Kurosaki shyly shot well, Kurosaki Yuzu took out a dart and shot it not to be outdone. The results are comparable to that of Kurosaki shyly. After seeing this, Kurosaki shyly immediately said, "Yuzu, are you trying to compete with me?" He looked at Kurosaki Yuzu very seriously. Kurosaki Yuzu also looked at Kurosaki shyly and said, "Compare to compare." Saying that, the two came to the side and began to compete. When I saw the two of them were having fun, Ichigo said, "Let them play." Let's play something else. Then he took them to a game of catching goldfish. Seeing a lot of goldfish playing in the inflatable swimming ring, Kasumidaji Rurichio's eyes lit up. She immediately grabbed Ichigo's arm and said, "Grab one for me, Ichigo," while shaking Ichigo's arm. Seeing this scene, Ichigo also smiled helplessly and said, Okay, I got it, you let me go first." Then he tapped Kasumidaji Rurichio's forehead with his other hand. When she heard that, she put Ichigo's hand down, and his face was quite red. Ichigo squatted down, picked up a paper net for goldfish fishing next to him, and then quietly looked at the goldfish in the water. Suddenly, Ichigo picked up a goldfish and said, "I got it." Then he gave the goldfish to Kasumidaji Rurichio. And Kasumidaji Rurichio looked at Ichigo and said, "Why don't you fish more?" Ichigo said, "If you fish out everything, then the owner of the shop will be at a loss, and you have to give others a little face anyway." 35. Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi laughed immediately. Advertisement seeing Yoruichi laughing, Uno Hinari and the others laughed too. Later, Kasumida Road Liulichio and Eggjawali also began to try to fish for goldfish. While they were fishing for goldfish, the Kurosaki sisters also came to their side. And they said from time to time, "I'm still better." Who said that? It's just a mistake. They said from time to time, and came to Ichigo. Ichigo looked at the two of them and said, "Okay, they are all sisters, it's just a game." Hearing this, the two of them paused for a while. When the two of them saw Sha Dalu Liulichio and Eggjawali fishing for goldfish, they came to the side and began to explain to them the skills of fishing for goldfish. Of course, Sha Dalu Liulichio listened a little seriously, and Eggjawali had already picked up several goldfish when they said it. Seeing this scene, they immediately came to the side of Liulichio on Sha Dalu and began to explain to her. Seeing this scene, Ichigo and the others laughed as they watched the three little girls being teachers to each other. However, under the explanation of the Kurosaki sisters, Kasumida Road Rurichio still did not catch a single one. Seeing this, Kurosaki shyly said directly, "You are so stupid." Hearing that Sha Dalu Liulichio was dissatisfied, she immediately said to her, "You can do it, come here." Hearing Kasumidaji Rurichio's words, Kurosaki shyly also picked up the paper net and said, "Let's see what technology is." Then he squatted down and started scooping up. But in the end Kurosaki shyly did not catch one, so he was ridiculed by Kasumidaji Rurichio. Advertisement seeing that there was some subtlety between Kasumidaji Rurichio and Kurosaki shyly, Kurosaki Yuzu immediately moved away and came to stand beside Ichigo. And Ichigo saw that Kasumida Road Rurichio and the others were about to quarrel, so he came to the side and said, "Okay, let's go eat oden now, and then let's play." Then he took them to the oden shop next to him. Yoruichi and Uno Hinaru wanted to laugh when they saw Ichigo's actions, but they held back and followed. When Ichigo and the others came to oden, they ordered some food that the Kurosaki sisters liked and looked at them and said, "Rurichio and shyly, if you two quarrel again, then I will send you both back." Hearing this, the two of them didn't dare, but looked at Ichigo with very pitiful expressions. When Ichigo saw them looking at him with such eyes, he said helplessly, "Okay, forget it this time, but it won't be the case next time." Then he tapped the two of them on the head. The two of them immediately appeared to be in great pain, and Ichigo didn't care, just shook his head. By this time the oden was ready, so we all grabbed a box and tasted it. Sha Dalu Liulichio took a bite and said, "Wang Dezhou is not bad, although not as good as Ichigo's." Kurosaki shyly said rudely, "Do you think everyone cooks the same way as Ichigo-san?" Hearing this, Kasumidaji Rurichio wanted to refute immediately, but thought that it might turn into a quarrel in the end, so she held back. Kurosaki shyly let out a sigh of relief when he saw Kasumidaji Rurichio without saying a word or leaving a trace, because she is also afraid. Then the two of them immediately turned to look at Ichigo, and they were relieved to see that Ichigo hadn't noticed them. But by this time Ichigo said, "What are you guys going to play next?" Hearing Ichigo's words, the three of them became entangled. Chapter 291. Playground 3. Kurosaki shyly said, "Let's go on a roller coaster. What do you think?" Then he asked Kasumi Oji Rurichio and Kurosaki Yuzu. After they heard it, they thought about it and nodded in agreement. Ichigo saw that they had made up their minds, so he said, "Okay, let's go play there then." After that, he took them to where they were going. Yoruichi and Uno Hinaru also followed after seeing it. Yoruichi went directly to Ichigo's side and hugged Ichigo's arm and walked. And Eggjawali walked with their three children. Sha Dalu Liulichio has been curiously looking at the novelties in the playground. When they came to the ice cream shop, Ichigo stopped, bought an ice cream for all of them, and then continued to walk towards the roller coaster. Kasumida Road Liulichio said after tasting the ice cream, "It's delicious, this thing." Kurosaki shyly, "Of course it's delicious." Sha Dalu Liulichin 617 asked, "What is this called?" Kurosaki Yuzu replied, "This is called ice cream, it's just licking and eating." Hearing Dokudaji Rurichio nodded, and Kurosaki shyly continued, "What we eat now is only the original flavor, which is the most common flavor. In addition to this, there are strawberry, vanilla, chocolate flavors and so on." Hearing Dokudaji Rurichio was even more excited and said, so what we are eating now is the most common one. I'm really looking forward to the taste of other ice creams, and said with a greedy look. Advertisement Ichigo immediately said, you can't eat more now, it will hurt your stomach. After hearing that, they had no choice but to nod in agreement. After seeing their situation, Yoruichi immediately said, Ruichio, you can eat ice cream, but if you eat too much, your stomach will hurt, CGBE, so you have to be a little bit more restrained. After hearing Yoruichi's explanation, Kasumidaiji Ruichio also nodded and said, got it, Sister Yoruichi. Seeing Kasumidaiji Ruichio's somewhat obedient appearance, Yoruichi stroked Kasumidaiji Ruichio's head, and she also revealed a look of enjoyment. Seeing this scene, Egg Jawali and the others also leaped smiles. Of course Kurosaki Shiarly looked at Yoruichi with some dissatisfaction. Of course Kurosaki Shiarly's dissatisfaction was also in Ichigo's eyes, so Ichigo looked at her and said, what happened to Shiarly? He walked from Yoruichi to Kurosaki Shiarly. Kurosaki Shiarly looked at Ichigo and said, it's just a little dissatisfied. Hearing her words, Ichigo knew that she was jealous, and it was Kasumidaiji Ruichio's jealousy. Immediately, Ichigo stroked Kurosaki Shiarly's head and said, Shiarly have grown up, so don't eat them. Hearing Ichigo's words, she immediately retorted, no, her face turned red as she spoke, and she seemed to have no testimony. Seeing Ichigo still smiling at himself, you know that Ichigo already knows that he is deceiving himself. So Kurosaki Shiarly bowed his head. Ichigo looked at her and said, actually, it's understandable to be jealous, anyone can have it. Advertisement hearing this, Kurosaki Shiarly immediately said, bullshit, Ichigo-san, you don't have it. After speaking, he lowered his head again. When Ichigo heard it, he immediately said, don't compare yourself to others. You are who you are. If you compare yourself to others, are you still you? Hearing this, Kurosaki Shiarly thought for a while and didn't know if he understood or what. He just looked at Ichigo and nodded and then pulled Ichigo towards the roller coaster. When Kurosaki Shiarly was pulling Ichigo away, Kurosaki Yuzu immediately said, Shiarly, you want to sneak away? Hearing Kurosaki Yuzu's words, everyone turned to Kurosaki Shiarly and Ichigo. When Kurosaki Shiarly saw it, he immediately pulled Ichigo and ran, saying, hurry up and run. Ichigo followed suit. Yoruichi said, how about we go to the barbecue stand next to us and have some food? So a very good scene was formed here. A group of girls ran towards a man and a woman in front. Kurosaki Shiarly was very helpless when he saw it, because he had to wait so long. This makes many people envious, especially those boys. Ichigo agreed after hearing this. The Kurosaki sisters jumped for joy immediately after hearing this, and then hopped off to the barbecue stall. Soon, Ichigo and the others ran to the roller coaster, and then looked at them and said, we still have a long line. He pointed at the people lining up in front of the roller coaster. Ichigo and Yoruichi were very helpless when they saw it, but Kasugaji Ruichio saw that Kurosaki sisters were so happy and knew that it must be a very good place, so they also quickened their pace. After hearing that, Kurosaki sisters looked at Ichigo with golden eyes. Chapter 292, Playground IV. Came to the barbecue stall and they picked a nice place to sit. Ichigo said, boss, come with 50 mutton skewers, 10 grilled wings, 20 scallops, 3 bottles of cold beer and 3 bottles of juice. After that, he looked at them and continued to ask, what else do you want to eat? They shook their heads when they heard it. Seeing this, Ichigo said, boss, let's serve these first. Let's add them after a while, 99. The owner of the barbecue stall said, okay, so do you want spicy food? Hearing this, Ichigo looked at Kasumida Road, Ruichio and Egg no Hanalai, and asked, what do you two eat? Hearing who Egg Jiwa Lai say, I still eat some. Sha Dalu Liuli Chio said, I can't eat too much. Hearing this, Ichigo said, just a little, put it on a little bit. After hearing it, he immediately said, okay, after that, I started to do it. Since it's not that late, the barbecue stall is not too crowded, just a few people. Soon the waiter brought the beer and juice, along with a glass. Seeing this, Ichigo said to them, drink it first, if it's not enough, add more. After hearing that, Kasumidaiji Ruichio immediately picked up the juice and drank it, and seeing Kasumidaiji Ruichio's movements, the Kurosaki sisters also moved. Seeing that they started drinking, Ichigo also opened the beer, poured it into the glass and gave the egg flour a strong glass. Yoruichi and Ichigo poured a glass directly and drank it. Seeing that they were drinking the egg, Hanaritsu also picked it up and tasted it. Advertisement after feeling the taste of the beer, I thought it was pretty good and I drank it. Yoruichi, who saw this scene, asked, how does it taste? Egg Jawali said, it's not bad, it tastes great. After that, he took another sip. Yoruichi and Ichigo were also very happy to see Ajino Hanaritsu. Kasumida Road Ruichio saw what Ichigo and the others were drinking and asked, what is this? I want to drink it too, Ichigo, and then acted coquettishly towards Ichigo. When Ichigo heard it, he immediately said, this is something for adults to drink, it's the same thing as wine, so let's talk about it when you grow up. After that, he stroked Kasumidaiji Ruichio's head to comfort him. After hearing Ichigo's words, Kasumidaiji Ruichio surprisingly didn't say anything, instead she nodded obediently and drank the juice. The Kurosaki sisters and Uno Hanaru were surprised to see this scene, but Yoruichi was not surprised. Because she believed that under the power of Ichigo, no girl could last long. At this time, the waiter suddenly brought the barbecue and said, "Please use it slowly," and then went back. Then Ichigo picked up the skewers for the three of them and said, "Let's start eating now." After hearing Ichigo's words, they started eating right away. After taking a bite, Shihouin said, "This barbecue is so delicious, and this one has a bit of a spicy taste." After speaking, he looked at the rest of the barbecue with light. Kurosaki shyly said, "You just had mutton skewers, and the spicy taste is because of the spicy pepper." Kurosaki Yuzu went on to say, "The other two are not too bad, so you can try it." Hearing that Hoshadalu Rurichio finished eating the mutton skewers immediately, picked up the grilled wings and ate it, and said, "This one is delicious too." Advertisement katakana middle dot flowers. Seeing Kasumidaji Rurichio's eating pattern, Ichigo and the others laughed. Yoruichi leaned on Ichigo at this time and said, "This kind of life is really good." Ichigo said, "It's good, but it lacks some passion." Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi understood that he wanted to have an opponent or a group of opponents who were not afraid of death and could make him feel the feeling of death. But that's impossible, because Ichigo isn't born on the losing side. Because Ichigo desires to fight in his heart, but also desires to become stronger. Thinking of this, Yoruichi felt a little helpless again, because she feels that Ichigo is a little weird, but he is her lover, so she will tolerate everything. If Ichigo knew what they were thinking, he would have laughed helplessly. Hearing Yoruichi's words, they immediately shook their heads and said, "No need, it's all right." The two of them recovered immediately after hearing the words of Kaoru Yoruichi, and Yoruichi got up from Ichigo's body. And when they saw that they had almost eaten what was on the plate, Yoruichi asked, "Do you want to eat some more?" But they thought to themselves, now that they are full, how can they not eat too much at night? Hearing this, Yoruichi said, "I just love such a strange person." Ichigo looked at Yoruichi a little embarrassedly and said, "I'm really a strange person." At this time, Egjawali coughed and said, "It's better to control it a little bit." Ichigo was very happy to hear Yoruichi's words. Chapter 293, Playground 5. After they finished eating, Ichigo looked where the roller coaster was. Seeing that there were not many people there, I said, "Okay, there are not many people now, so let's go somewhere to line up." Hearing Ichigo's words, they nodded immediately, and Kasumidaji Rurichio said, "Finally I can play this game." Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters also laughed happily, and even the egg Hanaru laughed. Then the six of them came to the roller coaster. The person in front of them had already entered. The ticket inspector looked at them and said, "Do you want to come in and sit? There are 2 seats." After hearing this, Ichigo immediately said, "No need, let's wait for the next round." After he saw the 617 behind him, a man and a woman, he said, "You guys play first, let's play later." After hearing that, the two of them were very happy to thank Ichigo and then went in to play. After seeing them go in, Ichigo said, "It should be alright to wait a little longer, Rurichio?" Hearing Ichigo's words, she nodded immediately and said, "It's okay, I don't want to play with people I don't know anyway." Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters directly held Kasumidaiji Rurichio's hand. Kurosaki shyly said, "Rurichio, this is the best, of course, fun things are fun to play with good friends." Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu also nodded and said, "This is indeed true." Hearing the two of them, Kasumida Road Rurichio was very happy and said, "Yes, it's only fun when we play together, because we are good friends." After that, a smile appeared. Seeing the 3 children in such a situation, both Ichigo Yoruichi and Uno Hanaru laughed. It's like seeing your child smile finding a friend. Of course, then they started talking about something more interesting, because waiting here is a bit boring. Advertisement. Soon Ichigo saw 8 people coming out, and the 2 people who had just given up their seats also came out. When I saw Ichigo, I thanked him and left. Then the ticket inspector said, "Okay, now you can come and play." He waved to Ichigo and the others. After seeing Ichigo, they went in. After entering, Ichigo looked at them and said, "Who is going to sit at the front?" Hearing Ichigo's words, Kurosaki shyly and Kasumidaiji Rurichio immediately raised their hands and said, Me. After Ichigo saw it, no one else was fighting, so he looked at the 2 of them and said, "Okay, just the 2 of you. No one else is fighting." After hearing Ichigo's words, the 2 of them looked at Yoruichi and the others, and they became a little shy when they saw that they were not fighting, but Ichigo still let them sit in the front. In the second row, Ichigo and Yoruichi sat down with Kurosaki Yuzu in the second row. Then they waited for a while, and 2 girls came and sat in the 4th row and started the roller coaster. After seeing the start, Ichigo said, "Yuzu, shyly, and Rurichio have to grab the safety lever, understand? 35. Hearing Ichigo's words, Kurosaki shyly immediately said, "Got it, brother Ichigo, and why didn't brother Ichigo tell sister Lai?" 5. Ichigo immediately said, "Sister Lai is a trustworthy person, so it's okay to not say anything, but you can forget it." Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaiji Rurichio were very angry. At this time, they wanted to refute, but they had already reached the top, so they stopped talking. At this time, Kasumida Road Ruichio was a little nervous, while the Kurosaki sisters were still calm. Because the two of them have played many times, they're used to it. Advertisement, and suddenly, with a whoosh sound, the car dropped rapidly, and a tingling feeling caused by centrifugation suddenly spread from the soles of the feet to the whole body. Shadalu Liulichio has exerted all her strength to hold the handrail tightly. This is the instinctive reaction of human beings, because in the subconscious it is our life-saving straw. And the two girls behind Ichigo, the screams of, "Ah, ah," in my ears almost burst my eardrums. Ichigo was very helpless when he saw it, and turned around to look at Yoruichi next to her. She was just looking into the distance at this time, showing a very excited look. Feeling Ichigo's gaze, Yoruichi turned his head and smiled at Ichigo. After seeing Ichigo, the corners of his mouth twitched helplessly, and then he looked at the people in front of him. Seeing the appearance of Kasumida Road Ruichio, there was no expression. Because these movements are normal human reactions, Ichigo doesn't show anything at all. The Kurosaki sisters had the same expression as usual, and the egg flower was the same as usual, just a little excited. Seeing this, Ichigo thought, women who are not powerful have some strange characters. Of course, this was what he thought in his heart, otherwise, if he said it out, the Night 1.4 would destroy him. Soon the trip was over with a screech of screams. When she came down, Kasumidaji Ruichio's feet were a little soft, and Kurosaki shyly helped her down. When Ichigo saw it, he immediately said, "What's wrong, are you feeling dizzy?" I heard Liulichio on Husha Road say, "It's okay, it's just because it's the first time I sit, so my head is a little dizzy." After hearing this, Ichigo immediately carried Kasumidai Ruichio on his back and said, "Let's go to that wooden chair to rest." Then he went somewhere without waiting for Kasumidai Ruichio to say anything. Yoruichi and the others followed after seeing it. Chapter 294, Playground V. After coming to the wooden chair and letting Kasumidaiji Ruichio sit down, Ichigo said, "Want something to drink?" Kasumi Road Ruichio waved his hand immediately and said no. Then Ichigo said to Yoruichi and the others, "Why don't you go and play for a while, I'll stay here with Ruichio." Hearing Ichigo's words, after they thought about it, Yoruichi said, "Okay, let's go play for a while, and see you later." After that, he took the Kurosaki sisters and Uno Hanarito and left. Kurosaki shyly said to Kasumidaiji Ruichio, "It's alright, it's all something to go through, so hurry up and adjust yourself." Then he made a gesture of encouragement to her. Kurosaki Yuzu also said to Kasumidaiji Ruichio, "Indeed, we can't be defeated by a roller coaster." He also encouraged her. 26. Uno Hanari and Yoruichi also comforted Kasumidaiji Ruichio and took the Kurosaki sisters to play. After everyone left, Ichigo said to Kasumidaiji Ruichio, "Okay, do you still feel uncomfortable now?" And Kasumidaiji Ruichio recovered immediately, then looked at Ichigo and said, "I think it's fine now." Hearing her words, Ichigo said helplessly, "You just want to play with them separately, don't you?" Hearing this, Liulichio of Kasumida Road immediately said, "I just think I should play with my bodyguards, not with those commoners." Hearing Kasumidaiji Ruichio's words, Ichigo immediately flicked her forehead and said, "Don't say that to others." After being bounced by Ichigo, she immediately looked at Ichigo with a pity. When Ichigo was looked at by Kasumida Road Ruichio like this, Jonin couldn't stop, so Ichigo immediately said to him, "Okay, let's go play somewhere else." Advertisement. After hearing Ichigo's words, Kasumidaiji Ruichio was very happy. Then I went to other rides with Ichigo. On the other side, in some abandoned buildings in Ichigo, there are several figures of these people. They are Kanai Hanzo and the assassins. They have no money here, and they don't want to be stunned, so they stay in this abandoned building. And just now, Kanai Banzo felt Kasumidaiji Ruichio's Ryotsu, so he immediately gathered everyone together. Kanai Banzo said to his subordinate, "Okay, the target has already appeared, we don't know whether the adult is there, so we can only go where to take a look with the determination to die." After his subordinates, he immediately continued to say, "After we started this profession, we already knew that there was no way out, so now we only have to move forward." Hearing the words of Hanzo Shuai, the assassins nodded and said, "Got it, Captain." Hearing the words of his subordinates, Narui Banzo laughed and said, "This is my subordinate, I'm not afraid of death, let's take this time as our last mission." Then he added, "If we succeed, then we won't be killers in the future." Hearing Narui Hanzo's words, they all nodded and looked at him. And Kanai Banzo said, "Let's go now." After speaking, everyone set off towards the playground. Everyone in the room disappeared. If an ordinary person saw this scene, he would definitely be scared to death. At this time, Ichigo was playing with Kasumidaiji Ruichio, and after he brought her to the haunted house, he felt the Ryotsu of Yukii Banzo and the others. Advertisement. Of course, Yoruichi also felt it, and she didn't say anything after hearing the message Ichigo gave her, so she handed it over to Ichigo, and she played happily with Hinaru and Kurosaki sisters. At this time, Ichigo said, "Ruichio, we are playing a bit more now, so let's go to Yoruichi and the others and play with them." After hearing Ichigo's words, she thought about it and agreed, so she nodded and said, then the concubine agreed. Hearing that she agreed, Ichigo also let out a sigh of relief, and then used Shunpo to bring Kasumidaiji Ruichio to Yoruichi's side, then looked at them and said, "Okay, you can take them for a while now, I'll do it. Let's talk about something. After that, Shunpo left. Yoruichi didn't say anything when he saw that Ichigo was gone, but Kaoru Yuru asked with some doubts. What's wrong? Hearing the latter person came out instantly, he was wearing a dark blue kimono and holding a black knife in his hand. At this time, Kanai Banzo and the assassins also came not far from the playground. And Kanai Hanzo immediately said, who is it? Hearing this, Kanai Hanzo knew and said, please also ask Mr. Kurosaki to come out. After hearing Egg Jawali's words, everyone felt a little thirsty, so they nodded and said, okay, then let's go drink juice. Then they ran to the stall selling juice first. When they were about to reach the playground, a sword pressure blocked their way. And 617 Yoruichi immediately gestured to the egg flower and said, he just has some things to solve. After hearing this, everyone nodded, and Egg Jawali also concealed it and said, in that case, let's go drink some juice, don't you feel thirsty? At this time, a person's voice sounded. You should leave now, otherwise, I can't guarantee that you can go back completely. Chapter 295. Subdue Ichigo was holding Tensa Zangetsu at this time and appeared in front of him. Narui Hanzo's men saw someone suddenly appear, and they all looked at Ichigo in horror and then looked at him very warily. Seeing this scene, Ichigo showed no expression at all, just looked at them coldly. Kanui Hanzo was very puzzled when he saw Ichigo wearing a kimono, but still said, Kurosaki-sama, what are you doing here? After hearing this, Ichigo looked at them coldly and said, what can you say? He also played with the Tensa Zangetsu in his hand. Hearing Ichigo's words, he immediately knew that Ichigo was trying to protect Kasumidaji Rurichio, so he came here to kill them. Thinking of this, Kanai Hanzo immediately bowed to Ichigo and said, please, Lord Kurosaki. 35 After he finished speaking, he took a stance to attack. Narui Banzou's subordinates immediately surrounded Ichigo when they saw it, waiting for Narui Banzou's actions. Ichigo admired the actions of Hanzou Niui and his 10 men. But he immediately said to them, come on. After Ichigo finished speaking, Narui Banzo rushed towards Ichigo, and his subordinates rushed towards Ichigo collectively after seeing it. Shunpo vanished when he was 2 meters away from Ichigo, and he came to Ichigo and slashed towards Ichigo's neck. And Ichigo didn't act like he didn't feel it at all. After seeing this scene, Kanai Hanzo felt that Ichigo was very arrogant, so he felt that his mission should be completed, so he slashed at Ichigo. Seeing Shuai Banzo's actions, his subordinates thought that this would be the end, and they were about to be happy. But who would have known that when the knife of Kue Banzo came to Ichigo's neck 10 centimeters, it was actually blocked, and he couldn't get in an inch. Advertisement Seeing this scene, Narui Banzo and his subordinates were very shocked, but they adjusted their mentality immediately, and Narui Banzo immediately took a few steps back. And his subordinates approached several vital parts of Ichigo, but they were all blocked by an invisible barrier, just like Kue Banzo. Seeing this scene, Kanai Hanzo and his subordinates tried several times, but it was still useless, and they were all smashed. They were a little overwhelmed and scared. At this time, you can understand why Kanai Hanzo is the leader of these people. At this time, he looked at Ichigo very calmly, trying to find a place to break through, but he thought that the places where his men attacked were the weaker parts of the human body, but they were still squatted by Ichigo, so he understood why Ichigo was Soul Society's taboo. Then Kanai looked at Ichigo and said, excuse me, Lord Kurosaki, why can't our attack hit you? After asking, he felt that he was really stupid. What kind of person would tell his enemy what he was capable of? Such a person is either too powerful to be desperate or an idiot. So Kanai Hanzo didn't believe Ichigo would say it at all. However, Ichigo turned to look at Kanai Hanzo and said, my ability is because my Ryotsu is too strong, so the Ryotsu that overflows involuntarily forms a Ryotsu wall, although it can't be seen, it can resist the Ryotsu wall. Weak Ryotsu. After hearing Ichigo's words, Kanai Hanzo was surprised and sighed. Surprised because Ichigo actually told him that, and sighed because Ichigo is too strong Yamato his current age. He felt ashamed that he had not lived so long as a teenage child as strong as Ichigo. After thinking about the matter, Kanai Hanzo immediately knelt down on one knee in front of Ichigo. Seeing Narui kneeling half left, his subordinates immediately knelt down to Ichigo. Seeing this scene, Ichigo looked at him puzzled and said, what's wrong? Are you going to surrender? Kanai Hanzo said, we came here with the belief that we must die, and under your command, we can't even hurt you, so please, Lord Kurosaki, give us death. He lowered his head. And his men bowed their heads. Advertisement Seeing this scene, Ichigo was speechless, looked at them and said, don't you have something called a taper-yao knife? Why don't you use it? After speaking, he looked at the knives in their hands. As for Kanai Banzo, he was surprised to hear Ichigo's words, but he calmed down immediately and said, the moyao will absorb the Ryotsu of the holder. We didn't want to die like that, so we removed the moyao. After he finished speaking, he looked at Ichigo very seriously. Hearing the words of Yuki Banzo, Ichigo saw that there was indeed something missing from their knives, so Ichigo said to them, do you really want to die? At this time, Ichigo suddenly didn't want them to die, because he wanted to form a faction. He set his sights on them. It doesn't matter if they are strong or not, because Ichigo can help them improve. Hearing this sentence, his subordinates were stunned. Even Kanai Hanzo stared at Ichigo in shock. And Ichigo went on to say, would you like to be my subordinates? Then he took Tensa Zangetsu back. Hearing Ichigo's words, they even went into a trance, thinking that this should be a dream. But Ichigo immediately continued. How is it? Do you think about it? Seeing that Kanai Hanzo agreed, his subordinates also expressed their loyalty to Ichigo. Because if he didn't agree, wouldn't his subordinates follow him to death, even if Ichigo didn't want their lives, but he didn't want to be killed by that old guy in Yunjiang after returning, so he agreed. Only after improving their strength will they believe in them. At this time, the system is still quite reliable. As long as the strength is improved by the system, then that person's loyalty to Ichigo will be full. Hearing this, Kanai Hanzo hesitated for a while and agreed. But Guanjing Banzo lowered his head, and his subordinates all looked at Guanjing Banzo, because they would all follow Xuanjing Banzo. He, Wang Dezhao, agreed, and they agreed. After hearing it, they regained their senses, and Narui Banzo looked at Ichigo for a reason, wondering if Ichigo was telling the truth. Of course Ichigo won't believe them just yet. Ichigo immediately said, help me protect my family, and help me kill me and my family. After thinking about it for a while, Suki looked up at Ichigo and said, so what do we need to do? Chapter 296. Subdue. After that, they all stared at Ichigo blankly, as if they didn't quite believe what he said. Ichigo knew what they were thinking when he saw them. So Ichigo looked at them and said, you don't believe me, do you? Hearing Ichigo's question, they all bowed their heads. And Ichigo continued. Then you come alone, I will help you repair your spiritual body, and improve your strength by the way. After speaking, he looked at Kanai Hanzo and the others. At this time, in the sky, a person in a blue kimono is standing, and a group of people in assassination suits are kneeling in front of the people in kimonos. You will be amazed when you see the scene. After hearing Ichigo's words, Kanai Hanzo immediately came to Ichigo and knelt down and said, let me come first, Lord Kurosaki. Seeing this scene, when his subordinates were about to speak for Narui Banzo, Ichigo immediately stopped him and said, shut up, watch now, and put his hand on Narui Banzo's head. After that, Ichigo used the system to repair the spiritual body of Shunjing Banzo, and then stopped after raising his strength to 617 full, level 20, of the Captain Circle. Of course, the current Zanpakuto was also repaired by Ichigo, and now it can still be Bankai. Because Nianjing Banzo used the taper sword after he was in Shikai before, Zanpakuto was suppressed, and Zanpakuto could not be used to improve his strength. So now that he has been repaired by Ichigo, his strength is now several times stronger than before. In the past, even if he used the taper sword to burn all his life, his final strength was only close to the level of the captain. So Kanai Hanzo is now very fortunate that he can choose to become Ichigo's subordinate. Then Kanai Hanzo looked at his subordinates and said, you don't need to worry, Lord Kurosaki has healed me, and my strength has been greatly improved. He called Ichigo with Lord Kurosaki this time, so he has now think of Ichigo as someone you want allegiance to. Advertisement later, Narui Banzo released his Ryotsu. Feeling the Ryotsu of Narui Banzo, everyone believed Ichigo's words, and their eyes flashed with reverence. And Ichigo immediately used Kido to block the Ryotsu of the half of the well, otherwise all the humans around here would be crushed to death by the Ryotsu of the half of the well. So after blocking, Ichigo said to Kanai Hanzo, think about it in the future, do you understand? After hearing Ichigo's words, Kanai Hanzo immediately knew what Ichigo was going to say, so he immediately said to Ichigo, I'm so sorry, Kurosaki-sama, and knelt down to Ichigo. After hearing Hanzo Kanui's words, Ichigo also forgave him and said, okay, let's not be an example, now let's improve the strength of the rest of the people first. After that, he looked at Kanai Hanzo's subordinates. When they heard Ichigo's words, they immediately knelt on the back of the half left of the well and said in unison, I beg Kurosaki-sama to give it. After saying that, they lowered their heads. Seeing their moves, Ichigo was very satisfied, and then extended his hand to them to increase their strength. Among them were 3 women, and the remaining 7 were men. After Ichigo repaired their spirit bodies, they also raised their strength to the peak of the captain, level 19. Although he wanted to be promoted to the same level as Kanai Banzo, he still made their strength a notch lower than that of Kanai Banzo. As Ichigo was promoted, all 10 of them, CGBE, exuded captain level Ryotsu, and Zanpakuto all had some changes. Because these people installed the Daoyao on Zanpakuto when they didn't learn Shikai, so they didn't learn Shikai at all. But now after being repaired by Ichigo, even Bankai has been learned. Now Ichigo has a Shinigami faction at the level of a commander-in-chief composed of 11 people. This force is still a little weak in Ichigo's view, and Ichigo raised them to this level because he wanted them to adapt to their current strength and then upgrade to the super captain level. Advertisement. That's what Ichigo had in mind, so Ichigo didn't elevate them to super captain level. This round of ascension used up half of Ichigo's character shards. But Ichigo did not regret it, but felt that what he used now was very affordable, because he got an opponent who was very loyal to him. Later, everyone in the masked army was also improved by him, but because of their personalities, Ichigo felt that in some things, Hanzao was better than them. After being promoted, they all took Ryotsu back and looked at Ichigo respectfully, waiting for Ichigo to speak. And Ichigo looked at them and said, okay, call me young master from now on. This made Kanai Hanzo feel that Ichigo was unfathomable. I was even more happy to follow Ichigo. Then Ichigo said, you guys stay near my house for now, and I'll find you at night. Because the words of the subordinates really make them very surging and enjoying, especially those who are loyal to you. Hearing Ichigo's words, they nodded and Shunpo left. After hearing this, they nodded collectively and said, young master. Ichigo was very excited by the momentum of his speech, and now he knows why those big bosses have their own power. Even his eyes didn't change at all. Ichigo was very satisfied to see that they all left without asking, but also a little helpless, because without asking him anything, he only knew that the people who performed the task were sometimes very scary. But it was helpless because he felt that such people were sometimes too rigid. Ichigo calmed down after being excited for a moment, of course not a single extra expression on his face leaped out. But immediately Ichigo thought that this was just the beginning, he still had a lot of time to train them, so Ichigo turned around and walked towards the playground Yoruichi and the others. Chapter 297. Playground 7. When they came to the playground next to them, Yoruichi said, solved? Ichigo nodded and said, solved. After hearing the conversation between Yoruichi and Ichigo, Yoruichi said, Ichigo, what did you just go and tell those people? Uno Hanaru felt that Ichigo and Kanai Hanzo met, but they couldn't feel it. Because Ichigo shielded Kanai Hanzo and the others from himself, so the egg and the others couldn't perceive it. After hearing this, Ichigo said, it's okay, they want to be my subordinates, so I agreed and let them go to my house to stand by. After that, he came to Kasuda Road next to Rurichio and stroked her hair. Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi also revealed his original expression, and then said, are they reliable? Ichigo said, anyway, as long as you can do it, right? After hearing what Ichigo said, Yoruichi nodded immediately and smiled at Ichigo. And Eggflower Lie nodded after hearing this. Because she knows how Ichigo can make others stronger, so she feels that even if a person is weak, Ichigo can make him stronger. When Ichigo saw that the Eggflower was always on his own, he said, you guys are almost done playing now. Hearing Ichigo's words, Kurosaki shyly said, it's almost there, just one Ferris wheel. Hearing Kurosaki Shiarli's words, Kurosaki Yuzu and Kasumidaji Rurichio both leaked happy smiles. Advertisement. Seeing that they were all looking at him, Ichigo said, okay, then let's go to the Ferris wheel. Then he took the hand of Kasumidaji Rurichio and walked towards the Ferris wheel. The Kurosaki sisters got jealous when they saw Ichigo holding Kasudaji Rurichio's hand, so they immediately came to Ichigo and started arguing. While Ichigo was leaving, Yoruichi and Uno Hanaritsu also followed behind Ichigo. Seeing the actions of the Kurosaki sisters and Kasumidaji Rurichio, they snickered. Soon Ichigo and the others came under the Ferris wheel. Shadalu Liulichio looked up at the Ferris wheel and was very excited and nervous, because it was her first time sitting on this, so she was a little overwhelmed. Ichigo stroked her head and said, as long as you go up, you will see a very nice view. Hearing Ichigo's words, she also recovered and didn't seem so nervous. The Kurosaki sisters were a little jealous after seeing it, but she held back because she thought it was her first time. Then Ichigo went to the ticket inspector, and after showing him his ticket, they went in and sat down. After entering, Kasumida Road Rurichio was already holding on to Ichigo's kimono. Seeing this, Ichigo knew that Kasumidaji Rurichio was still a little scared. Of course, everyone saw Kasumidaji Rurichio's actions, but they understood it very well, so they didn't say anything. Then the Ferris wheel started to start. Ichigo asked Kasuga Road Rurichio to sit down first, and he himself sat next to Kasumidai Rurichio. The others sat across from Ichigo, staring out the whole time. When he was about to reach the top, Ichigo said to Kasumida Road Rurichio, now open your eyes and take a look at the scenery outside, it's very good. Advertisement. For flowers. Hearing Ichigo's words, Kasumidaji Rurichio tried her best to open her eyes and look outside. Seeing the night scene outside, Shadalu Liulichio also forgot her fear. She looked outside and said, it's really beautiful. The long bridge is like a shining rainbow, lying on the lake, connecting the two sides of the lake shore tightly. The roads are like dragons across the land. The lights in the distance make me doubt, is it in the galaxy? Zero. Of course, these are just the thoughts of Shadalu Liulichio. Rurichio on Kasumida Road has been admiring the night view, and Yoruichi and the others are also fascinated by the night view. This makes Ichigo feel that women are still women in this way. Soon the Ferris wheel came down, and Yoruichi and the others also came out of the night view. After coming down, Ichigo said, how is it? Rurichio, are you afraid of heights now? Hearing Ichigo's words, Kasumida Road Rurichio immediately said to Ichigo, it's not bad, now I think the scenery here is very good. Hearing the words of Rurichio on Kasuga Road, Ichigo's mouth curled slightly and said, that would be very good. Then they all came out of the Ferris wheel, and Yoruichi looked at Ichigo and said, what are we going to do now? Ichigo looked at them and said, let's go have some supper now. 35. Hearing Ichigo's words, they immediately nodded happily and agreed. Chapter 298, Playground 8. The place where Ichigo is bringing them this time is where Ichigo always came with Yoruichi, and where the Kurosaki sisters were brought last time. Kasumida Road Rurichio looked at Ichigo and said, where are we going to eat this time? Ichigo said, it's a very good Western restaurant. Hearing Ichigo's words, Kasumida Road Rurichio looked at Ichigo in confusion and asked, Western restaurant? 5. Hearing this, Ichigo remembered Kasumidaji Rurichio, but he doesn't know what's going on in the world, so Kurosaki shyly spoke when he was about to say something. Kurosaki shyly said, Rurichio, let me tell you. Hearing Kurosaki, 620, Shiarli's words, Kasumidaji Rurichio turned to look at her. And she continued. Western food, as the name suggests, is the food of Western countries. The main ingredient is steak, which is very different from our food. Hearing Hushidaji Rurichio still understood, but she still heard some words and said, so we're going to eat steak. She smiled at Ichigo. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki shyly and the others wanted to laugh, but they held back. And Ichigo touched Kasumidaji Rurichio's head and said, we just want to eat steak. After hearing Ichigo's words, she jumped up happily and said, then let's go quickly. She also dragged Ichigo to go there quickly. When Ichigo saw it, he said softly, don't worry, we'll be there soon. Hearing Husha Road, Rurichio was not so anxious, but waited for Ichigo instead. While Yoruichi and the others came to Ichigo, Yoruichi looked at Ichigo and asked, how do we get there? Advertisement. Ichigo looked at them and said, it's not too far away anyway, and then looked at them. And Yoruichi said, as long as you decide, it's fine, we all listen to you anyway. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Ichigo glanced at the egg and the others, and they nodded to listen to Ichigo's arrangement. After seeing it, Ichigo said, then let's walk there. Then he walked towards the restaurant first. Yoruichi and the others immediately followed after seeing it. After Yoruichi and the others followed, Kasumidaji Rurichio hugged Ichigo's arm immediately. How could the Kurosaki sisters who saw this scene not be angry, so they immediately quarreled with Kasumidaji Rurichio. Seeing this scene, Yoruichi and Eggflower Lie laughed. Yoruichi said to Eggflower Lie, this kind of life is not bad, what do you think, Sister Lie? Egg Jawali said immediately, indeed, this kind of life is very easy and very happy, if only it could be like this forever. After hearing that, Yoruichi said, Sister Lie can always live like this, anyway, Lie can live here as long as she wants. Then she looked at the egg. Seeing Yoruichi's eyes, Yoruichi was very happy and said, then don't be angry if I live too long, Yoruichi. After hearing Yoruichi said, how could I possibly be angry, it's too late for me to be happy. Hearing that, Hanaru laughed, and Yoruichi also laughed. Ichigo was very envious when I saw Yoruichi and Egg no Hanaru talking and laughing along the way. Because next to him are some children who have been arguing with him, so he is very helpless. Advertisement. Soon they came to the door of the restaurant amid noise and laughter. Looking at this luxurious restaurant, Kasumida Road Rurichio said in surprise, it's really too extravagant. Hearing Kasumidaji Rurichio's words, Kurosaki shyly immediately said, there are more luxurious ones. You will know when you go in. After that, Kurosaki shyly walked towards the inside. And the rest of them went in one after another. After entering, the lobby manager came to Ichigo and said, which private room do you want to eat this time, Mr. Kurosaki? Ichigo said, just as it is, and then took out a card for him. After hearing this, the lobby manager immediately took the card respectfully and said to Ichigo, then let me take everyone to the private room. Then he made a gesture of invitation to them. When Ichigo and Yoruichi saw it, they went straight to where, and Kasumidaji Rurichio immediately followed behind Ichigo when they saw it. Soon they took the elevator to the private room. And Kasumida Road Rurichio asked some questions curiously when taking the elevator, and Kurosaki shyly answered them one by one. Fortunately, the lobby manager didn't follow up when he was taking the elevator, otherwise Liu Lichio on Sha Dalu would be embarrassed. After entering the private room, Kasumida Road Lu 1.4 Richio was even more amazed and said, wow! The things on this table are so beautiful. Then he came to the table and touched the things on the table. And Kurosaki Yuzu immediately came to her and said, Rurichio, don't touch it, if you break it, you will pay for it. Hearing this, Kasumida Road Liu Lichio immediately put her hands away. Yoruichi, who saw this scene, said, actually, there is no need to be so careful, as long as it is not damaged. Hearing Husha Road, Liu Lichio also nodded, but she still didn't touch anything on the table. Chapter 299. Playground 9. Of course, Yoruichi and Uno Hanali noticed Kasumidaji Rurichio's actions, but they didn't say it, they just snickered. Ichigo looked at the waiter and said, just like the original, prepare 6 servings. The waiter nodded and went out. Then Ichigo sat down and said to them, now take a rest. You can eat something in a while. After speaking, Ichigo turned on the TV and watched it. When Kasumidaji Rurichio saw Ichigo watching TV, he immediately took the remote control in his hand and switched channels to watch another TV series. Of course, Ichigo didn't stop him when he saw it, he just turned his head to look at the night view outside the window. Kasumidaji Rurichio and the Kurosaki sisters all watched TV, while Ichigo Yoruichi and O26 Hanaritsu watched the night view outside. Egg no Hanali said, Ichigo, what are you going to do after Aizen has been dealt with? When Ichigo was about to say something after hearing it, Yoruichi said, we're going to travel around the world. He came to Ichigo and hugged Ichigo's arm. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Ichigo nodded at Ajino Hanari without saying a word. Hearing Yoruichi's answer, Kaoru Kono said, travel around the world. That's a really good idea. Yoruichi immediately said, right. That's what Ichigo thought of. After saying that, he smiled happily at Ajino Hanaru. Seeing Yoruichi smirking, Ichigo said, okay, there's nothing to say about this kind of thing. After that, he nodded to the egg flower. Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi immediately said, what's the matter? It's okay to tell others about your decision anyway. Advertisement. After hearing this, Ichigo flicked Yoruichi's forehead and said, okay, you can say whatever you want. After saying that, he smiled slightly. Seeing the relationship between Yoruichi and Ichigo, Uno Hana is very envious. Of course there is also jealousy. But she couldn't get jealous when she thought about the relationship between Yoruichi and Ichigo. Immediately, she adjusted her mood and came to the table to sit down and watch TV with Kasumidaji Rurichio and the others. At this time, Yoruichi said to Ichigo, Ichigo, I want to bite you now, and I also want to say that I am jealous. Of course, the voice was not so loud that only Ichigo could hear it. After hearing this, Ichigo said strangely, what's wrong with me? You're jealous. Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi still looked at Ichigo angrily, but she still said, it's not Sister Lai and Chiyoruri. After speaking, she turned away from Ichigo. After hearing this, Ichigo said speechlessly, okay, don't make trouble, I don't have such feelings for them. After that, he scratched Yoruichi's nose. Yoruichi immediately said, of course I also know that you don't have such feelings. If you have, I'll slap you right now. After that, he compared a scissor hand. Seeing this, Ichigo also felt a little cold in his lower body, but he cheered up immediately. And Yoruichi continued, however, they have a very good impression of you, what should you do about this? Hearing this, Ichigo said helplessly, I can't control other people's feelings, don't treat me like a god. But immediately Ichigo said, but once the strength reaches a certain level, it can indeed change other people's emotions. Yoruichi immediately said, when will that be? Let's forget it. Advertisement. After hearing this, Ichigo was also distressed, but Yoruichi immediately said, this question is for God. Anyway, as long as you don't like them, I can still accept that they like you, which means that my Ichigo is excellent. Very happy looking at Ichigo. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was very helpless, not knowing whether to be happy or angry. Then suddenly a knock was heard on the door. Kurosaki Yuzu went to open the door. When the door was opened, the waiters came and served. After seeing the food, Shadalu Liulichio stopped watching TV at all, but instead saw the 620 line on the food. Seeing the appearance of Rurichio on Kasumi Road, Ichigo said, it's alright, let's eat right now. After that, he walked towards the dining table. Because she saw that Shadalu Liulichio and the others were very happy and didn't say anything. Seeing Kasumidaji Rurichio eating, the Kurosaki sisters also ate. Seeing this scene, Egjawali wanted them to wait and eat together, but he still didn't say it. After the waiter finished all the dishes, they went out. Then Ichigo said to the flower of the egg, okay, let's eat too. Then he pulled Yoruichi and sat down. Seeing this scene, Ichigo Yoruichi and Ichigo Yoruichi laughed secretly. And Shadalu Liulichio sat directly on the chair and ate. After seeing the egg, Hanaritsu also sat next to Yoruichi and started to eat. Kasumidaji Rurichio looked at Ichigo and said, can I eat now? Chapter 300. The end of the playground soon, they ate everything and rested in their seats. After they had rested for a while, Ichigo said to them, do you want to go back now? Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi said, you can go back now, but let's see what Rurichio thinks. After saying that, he turned his attention to Kasumidaji Rurichio. Hearing Yoruichi's words, everyone looked at her, which made her nervous. When Ichigo saw it, he immediately said, okay, everyone, don't stare at Rurichio like this, it will make her a little scared. After saying that, he waved to them and motioned them not to stare all the time. After seeing it, they also looked away. Seeing that everyone was no longer staring at him, Kasumida Road Rurichio also breathed a sigh of relief and said, I think it's okay to stay here now, so let's all go back. 55. After she finished speaking, she said, got up. After hearing the words of Rurichio on Kasumi Road, everyone got up and walked outside. When I came to the outside of the private room, I saw the waiter and said, we have already eaten, please clean up the inside. After that, I took the card from the waiter and left. The waiter said to Ichigo, please come next time, and bowed, then went in and cleaned up. After Ichigo and the others came out, Ichigo said, then let's use Shunpo to go back. After saying that, he bent down at Kasumi Road Rurichio and motioned her to come up. Kasumidaji Rurichio was very happy when he saw it, and when he was about to go up, Kurosaki Shirley immediately stopped him and said, this time we will use guessing, and the winner can compete with Ichigo. Hearing Dokudaji Rurichio originally did not want to control it, but Kurosaki Shirley said aggressively, don't you dare. Advertisement. Hearing Hushadaji Rurichio immediately agreed and said, whoever dares to guess the boxing will guess the boxing. After speaking, he looked at Kurosaki Shirley a little angrily. Kurosaki Shirley was very happy when she saw Kasumidaiji Rurichio, and when the two of them were about to guess boxing, Kurosaki Yuzu said, hey, don't forget me. After hearing Kurosaki Yuzu's words, they immediately let Kurosaki Yuzu join in. Then the three of them guessed their fists together, and the final winner was Kurosaki Yuzu. This made Kurosaki Shirley very annoyed and regretful, and even Kasumidaji Rurichio felt the same way. But Kurosaki Yuzu had already won, so the two of them couldn't say anything unnecessary, so they shut up and came to wait for them beside Yoruichi and Uno Hanaritsu. At this time, an unknown black air emerged from behind Yoruichi and Egg Nohaka, which made Kasumidaji Rurichio and Kurosaki sisters very scared. Kurosaki Yuzu is very glad that he is next to Ichigo, otherwise he would not know how to deal with Yoruichi and Uno Hanari. Yoruichi said to Kurosaki Shirley, "Do you need to despise the two of us so much? Are we both so bad?" Egg Jawali also looked at Sha Daluliuli Chio with empty eyes, making Sha Daluliuli Chio feel like she wanted to cry. And Kurosaki Shirley said, "No, it's just," before she could finish her speech, she said, "Okay, let's talk about you when we get home." After that, she picked up Kasumidaji Rurichio and Shunpo left. Yoruichi also immediately picked up Kurosaki Shirley Shunpo and left. It was because Ichigo had already carried Kurosaki Yuzu on his back and walked towards Shunpo when they said something. After Yoruichi and Uno Hanaritsu saw it, they immediately picked up Kurosaki Shirley and Kasumidaiji Rurichio Shunpo and left. On the way, Ichigo wasn't too fast, so Yoruichi and Ajino Hanari could come quickly. And Kurosaki Yuzu said to Ichigo, "Brother, can you come to our room and sleep with us at night?" Advertisement. After hearing this, Ichigo said, "It's not going to work tonight because I'm going to deal with Rurichio tonight, so I'm going out tonight." After hearing that, Kurosaki Yuzu immediately said, "I can't sleep that night." Ichigo said, "It's nothing, let's sleep during the day." 35. When Kurosaki Yuzu was about to say what Ichigo said, he suddenly thought, "If you sleep during the day, then you can watch your brother sleep all the time." Thinking of this, Kurosaki Yuzu couldn't help laughing happily. Of course the laughter was heard by Ichigo, but he kept walking with Shunpo regardless. Suddenly a complaint came. "Ichigo, why didn't you just leave?" Really? Ichigo knew it was Yoruichi when she heard the voice. And Ichigo said, "It's not because we saw you guys playing there, so we'll go first, and you all know the way home isn't right, so I'll go first." Yoruichi became even more dissatisfied after hearing the king's, but she still refrained from saying it. This is the egg flower lie also came, looked at Ichigo and said, "You really make us chase, Ichigo?" After hearing this, Ichigo touched his nose helplessly and said, "I'm sorry, Sister Lie and Yoruichi." After hearing this, they forgave Ichigo a little, and the Kasumidaji Rurichio and Kurosaki Shirley they brought with them didn't dare to make a sound at all. Seeing this scene, Ichigo knew that it must be Yoruichi and Uno Hanali who did something to them, otherwise they would not be so quiet. But Ichigo continued walking towards the house without asking anything. Of course, the speed of the foot has also become faster. Of course, it is also within the acceptable range of egg flower.